Thank you for joining us this morning. Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close. Just like Soleimani found out in the first term, Iran found out when POTUS says 60 days that he seeks peace and negotiation, he means 60 days of peace and negotiation. Otherwise, that nuclear program, that nuclear capability will not exist. He meant it. This is not the previous administration. The President Trump said no nukes. He seeks peace, and Iran should take that path. He sent out a truth last night saying this: any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Signed, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Iran would be smart to heed those words. He's said it before, and he means it. I want to give recognition to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Joint Staff, General Eric Kurilla at CENTCOM, who did a phenomenal job, he and his staff, all of CENTCOM. Policy across the board, this was a joint effort, and across the Pentagon effort. I want to recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers, warriors. I want to recognize the sailors on those destroyers, in those subs, on those carriers, warriors, all of them. I want to recognize our soldiers doing air defense, base defense, QRF, warriors, all of them. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. And I want to give recognition to our allies in Israel as well. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. In that way, it was historic. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war. But let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word. I want to give congratulations to our Commander-in-Chief. It was an honor to watch him lead last night and throughout, and to our great American warriors on this successful operation. God bless our troops. God bless America. And we give glory to God for his providence and continue to ask for his protection. I turn it over now to the chairman for specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for recognizing all of our folks out there doing our nation's work, and nice to see everybody on this early Sunday morning. Last night on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of a plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world. At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, and just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command area of responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Esfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordo and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the President stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners, and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions, Phil.
Me?
Yeah.
So, is regime change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The President authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the president decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process. Wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, and those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sir, to your first question, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that, and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
So they were given no advance warning?
No, sir.
And congressional?
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers Act.
After the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Two quick questions. Do you believe you completely destroyed Iranian nuclear program? And how about Iranian ballistic missiles? Your ally as Israel always saying that is biggest threat. And second question is very important. What will be your next step if Iran or militias under Iranian influence in the region attack U.S. interests or allies in the region?
And you can chime in on this too, Mr. Chairman. The battle damage assessment is ongoing, but our initial assessment, as the chairman said, is that all of our precision munitions struck where we wanted them to strike and had the desired effect. Which means especially in Fordo, which was the primary target here, we believe we achieved destruction of capabilities there. Ultimately, wherever it may be, whether it's in Iraq or Syria or bases in the Gulf, as the president said, it would be, as the chairman said, it would be a very bad idea for Iran or its proxies to attempt to attack American forces. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Regarding retaliations, Iran and North Korea are cooperating on nuclear and missile development. Do you think there is a possibility that Iran, North Korea, and the other forces, such as China, will join forces to retaliate against the United States?
Well, unfortunately, because of the policies under the previous administration, we drove those countries together, and ultimately that creates a challenging environment. For this particular operation, the focus is on Iran and Iranian nuclear capabilities. That's our focus here, is to not just say that they can't have, but President Trump has said from over 20 years, frankly, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And ultimately, he decided this is the moment, given their stonewalling, when direct military action had to be taken to prevent that from happening. Yes?
Thank you very much. General Kane, I understand OPSEC, I respect OPSEC. Can you say at all what security procedures are being taken to protect U.S. troops in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East? And Secretary Hegseth, as a global war on terrorism veteran, what do you say to veterans who may be concerned the U.S. is getting into another open-ended war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction?
Thanks, sir, for the question. I won't comment on what force protection measures are being taken in the region. What I will say is we're being proactive and not reactive, and being very thoughtful about ensuring that we do all that we can to protect our forces out there.
And I would just say, as the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people. But what the president gave us, as I said, was a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand, as the president put out last night. He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets and force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and in working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have got.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world and then offering options to the Secretary and to the President. I won't comment on any future things, but the American people should know that we carefully consider those moves around the world and try to modulate as needed our force structure in the region.
Absolutely. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. What communications are being sent to the Iranians right now, and is there any possibility of diplomacy now or in the coming days?
I can only confirm that there are both public and private messages being directly delivered to the Iranians in multiple channels, giving them every opportunity to come to the table. They understand precisely what the American position is, precisely what steps they can take to allow for peace, and we hope they do so. Yes.
The president may not want an open-ended conflict. The Iranians may disagree. Are you prepared for a protracted war?
Well, anything can happen in conflict. We acknowledge that. But the scope of this was intentionally limited. That's the message that we're sending. With the capabilities of the American military nearly unlimited. So Iran, in that sense, has a choice. But we've made it very clear to them, this is nuclear sites, this is nuclear capabilities, this is the line that the president set, and we set that back. Now is the time to come forward for peace. But I think one of the takeaways from this as well is the unprecedented level of ongoing cooperation. I can't speak highly enough of the chairman and his staff and General Kurilla in CENTCOM, what they've done to look around the corner, to pre-position, to understand how an operation like this comes together. The scope and scale of what occurred last night would take the breath away of almost any American if you had an opportunity to watch it in real time. And I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America in Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy nuclear capabilities. And our boys in those bombers are on their way home right now. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future, and we certainly hope they take the path of negotiated peace. But I could not be more proud of how this building operated, of the precision, the sensitivity, and the professionalism of the troops involved in this effort. I will take one more. We'll take one more question. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Concerning the justification for these strikes, in March, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their threat assessment, concluding, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear programs he suspended in 2003, unquote. So what new intelligence does the U.S. have since then that the Iranians have changed their position on nuclear weapons? And does this new intelligence come from U.S. sources and methods, or are we getting this information from other countries?
Well, I would just simply say that the president's made it very clear. He's looked at all of this, all of the intelligence, all of the information, and come to the conclusion that the Iranian nuclear program is a threat, and was willing to take this precision operation to neutralize that threat in order to advance American national interests, reduce the Iranian nuclear program, and obviously collective self-defense of ourselves and our allies. So he looked at all of it, understood the nature of the threat, and took bold action I think the American people would expect in a commander-in-chief. That's all we've got. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any of the WC-135s up to check for radioactive material in the atmosphere?
Greetings. Welcome to Kiy NY7. Hope all is well. That was a conclusion of the Defense Secretary of United States. So we just had Pete Hagsgaff and the person join in. The thing that's going on too is the fact that you have Democratic, one of the leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, spoke on this, stating that this wasn't this didn't get cleared the right way before even bombing Iran. So I'm just going to show some clips from that, and we'll probably have some more reactions going on ever since last night when the U.S. went and bombed Iran. Moving around a lot right now, so bear with me.
Trump is buying time until he can figure out whether to join Israel's attack on Iran. On Thursday, Trump said he would make that decision in, quote, 2 weeks. In a new interview Friday, NBC's Andrea Mitchell asked Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi if he thinks a deal with the U.S. could be reached within that time frame. Here's what he had to say.
I think it's up to,
Americans, the United States, I mean, to show their determination for going for a negotiated solution, or they have something else in their mind and they want to attack Iran anyway. So they had perhaps this plan, and they just needed negotiations perhaps to cover it up. We don't know how we can trust them anymore. What they did was, in fact, a betrayal to diplomacy.
This morning, the foreign minister accused the U.S. of being involved in Israel's attacks on Iran, quote, from day one, which the Trump administration has denied. Meanwhile, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, that room next to us, the building next to us, are working to limit Trump's authority to unilaterally involve the U.S. in the conflict. That includes our next guest, who has introduced a war powers resolution to prohibit, quote, United States armed forces from unauthorized hostilities in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Joining us now, California Congressman Ro Khanna, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you for joining. You know, the key here is going to be Republicans. Massey from Kentucky is on board with you here. But what are you hearing from your Republican colleagues in the House on this resolution specifically?
No one in America wants us to get into another war in Iran. Republicans in the House have been saying that privately. Some have even been saying that on social media, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Andy Biggs. The reluctance is they don't want to go against President Trump in Congress. And so they're saying, well, we don't have a war yet. We'll get on if there are indications that we're going to get into a war. But at that point, it's sort of moot. Once we actually strike, then Iran will retaliate and we're in a war. So now is the time for Congress to weigh in.
Well, so how do you pass this if those Republicans aren't there yet? How are you going to convince them that instead of talking to you privately and some of us reporters privately, they need to stand 10 toes down and get on board with your resolution?
Well, candidly, it's not going to just be me or a program on MSNBC, but you have some of the loudest voices on the MAGA right saying this is a betrayal of what Donald Trump ran on when he ran on America First and ending overseas interventions. You've had Tucker Carlson speak out. You've had Steve Bannon speak out. I was just on Theo Vaughn, Bernie supporter, then ended up having both Trump and J.D. Vance. He said not a single person that he's talked to, even people who have served in the military, want this war. At least 1/3 of Trump's voters have been vocal in opposing this war, according to polling. And so I think that that voice is getting louder and louder. And my hope is that members of Congress will act on it.
Now, Congressman, while this is going on, there is talk about a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, and the president was asked if he would support a ceasefire while negotiations were going on. This was yesterday, President Trump in New Jersey, when he was asked about this. So show this, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Would you support a ceasefire while the negotiations happen?
I might, depending on the circumstances.
Would you?
It's very hard to stop. I will say this. It's very hard to stop when you look at it. Israel's doing well in terms of war. And I think you would say that Iran is doing less well. It's a little bit hard to get somebody to stop.
So, Congressman, one, how can there be a ceasefire, let alone negotiations, if there are any, when the president of the United States can't give you an answer you can be confident in that is American policy?
Well, first of all, Jonathan, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, the president can get Netanyahu to stop. He's authorized $14 billion of military sales just in the last 4 to 5 months since he's been president. He reversed Biden's decision not to give them 2,000-pound bombs. But, Jonathan, it's really important to understand the facts here. When President Obama got the Iran deal signed, there was no nuclear development under that agreement in any place other than Natanz. And Natanz was limited to 5% enrichment. There was some exception up to 20% for accelerated research reactors. Today, you have a situation where Fordo is at 60% enrichment. You have a situation where there are numerous sites that are enriching. Those people who said, well, Obama's deal wasn't perfect, some were cheating. Well, they were not cheating nearly enough to the situation we have today. President Obama showed that diplomacy is not just morally the better path, it is pragmatically the better path to deny Iran a bomb. And this whole effort has been created because Donald Trump came, ripped up the JCPOA, and we are more at risk today than we were at a bomb when President Obama acted. He does not get nearly the credit he deserves, and we need to look at what he did. Iran's much weaker. We can have that kind of negotiation again.
Senator Tim Kaine, your colleague in the Senate from Virginia, is also is introducing a resolution kind of similar to yours in the Senate. Chuck Schumer, the leader there, you put the word here for me, but have things to say about what Chuck Schumer said in reaction to that resolution. Do you feel like the Democratic leadership is doing enough on this issue?
Not in the Senate. I mean, look, Chuck Schumer should clearly say we should not be in Iran, in a war in Iran. He should clearly say that we're going to put Senator Kaine's war powers resolution for a vote, call for that, because Thune has to do it as well. If the Democratic Party is not a party opposing the war in Iran, then I don't know what we stand for. Now, I'm glad that Hakeem Jeffries put out a statement yesterday where he clearly said that before Donald Trump strikes Iran, he needs to come to Congress, that there has to be congressional authorization. I hope Senator Schumer will say the same thing, and I hope we can clearly have a contrast with Donald Trump. He's the person who is marching us into another Middle East war. We're the party that's against another war in the Middle East. I believe that's where most Americans are.
So then, Congressman Khanna, given what you just said, if the president follows through and bombs Iran, would that then constitute an illegal action? Would the United States, be in an illegal war?
Yes, because he wouldn't have had congressional authorization. As bad as Iraq was, at least George W. Bush came to Congress and Congress authorized it. And people said, well, why not just have the B-2 bomber go over and strike Fordo and eliminate the nuclear facility? First of all, it's not that simple. Based on public reporting, it's unclear whether even our bunker bombs could get that deep. Secondly, everyone anticipates if we did that, they would strike American troops in Iraq. They would have counterterrorism operations against our embassies and potentially even against Americans on the homeland. That would force an American president to respond. I mean, we can't have our troops hit and then not respond. So we're basically in a war. The last war in the Middle East cost our country $3.6 trillion, 10% of our federal debt. Americans don't want young people going and dying in Iran. They don't want Americans to be targets. They don't want more debt. This is being driven by the same neocons who voted and supported the war in Iraq, who ripped up and criticized President Obama's Iran deal. And by the way, anyone who was calling for ripping up Obama's Iran deal or who cheerled us into Iraq, I don't want to hear from you. You should be sidelined to the Democratic Party. This party needs to be clearly against another war in the Middle East.
All right, greetings again. It's Kiy NY7. Glad you're around. We were all up pretty late last night after bombing Iran. So I played Hagsaf, who is the defense secretary, the U.S. Defense Secretary. So aside from that, there's been a lot of pushback, as you probably already would assume, from the Democratic Party. They are stating specifically that like what you just heard, there's a channel, there's a process you have to go through before actually initiating war, even as president. So they're feeling that President Donald Trump did not get the necessary congressional approval before moving ahead with these Iran strikes. Bernie Sanders found out while he was live doing his speech too. I thought that was interesting. There's a phone number here, and then there's a link if anyone would like to join in, if you want to share your thoughts on any of this. Or there may be something pressing or something, you could feel free to share your thoughts here. I have my own views, but I welcome yours. I wanted to show the moment that Bernie Sanders spoke last night, and then when he found out what happened, and that's, shook some things up there. I thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran," etc. I agree. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard this second alarming, that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The President does not have the right I was talking a moment ago about the fact that we are living in one of the most difficult moments in the modern history of this country, and Trump just made it that much more difficult. That's just another burden we're going to have to carry, and that's just another message we're going to have to get out all over this country. The American people do not want more war, more death. You know, it might be a good idea if we concentrated on the problems that exist in Oklahoma and Vermont, rather than getting involved in another war that the American people do not want. Let me just say this, that in the midst of all of what is going on, what is enormously important is that we do not give up on a vision of where this country must go. What the establishment wants you to believe is that you have no power, that you can't accomplish anything. They have it all, nothing you could do. And in this moment in American history, what we have got to do in Vermont and Oklahoma, in Texas, all over this country, is stand up and fight back and tell them this is our country. And I don't care if you are a progressive, a moderate, or a conservative. This country belongs to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. And when we look out into the future, the kind of America we want, let's understand a few things. Number one, instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires, we should demand they start paying their fair share of taxes. No, we should not be throwing 16 million Americans off the health care they have. We should be doing what every other major country does, guarantee health care to all as a human right. This is not a radical idea. It exists in virtually every other wealthy country. The function of a rational healthcare system is not to make hundreds of billions for the drug companies and the insurance companies. It's to provide quality care to all. When we look into the future, we must demand that every worker in America earns a decent wage, raise the minimum wage to at least $17 an hour. We can create millions of good-paying jobs by union jobs, by building 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing. Not a radical idea to say that in a competitive global economy, every young person in this country, regardless of income, should have the right to get a higher education. We can and must make public colleges and universities, community colleges, trade schools, tuition free. And when we talk about freedom, and many of my colleagues talk about freedom every day, well, what freedom means, among other things, is that every woman in this country has a right to control her own body.
Hey, again, welcome to Kiy NY7. While I'm on this live stream, wanted to speak on some things politically a bit. We just showed Hagsaf, the Defense Secretary of the United States. He just spoke on the attack on Iran. I do want to say this too. I seen someone in the chat saying go Bernie and stuff, right? Yeah, go Bernie. What I will say is this, whichever's regardless of what side you're on politically, I like to see action. I like to see active politicians, not just coming out when it's time to run, not just coming out when it's something for them, not just coming out, like I said, when it's time to run. I have barely seen any politicians hitting the streets. Have y'all? I seen Maxine Waters, but she's like 1,000 years old. Okay. What is going on with our other people that really should be involved more in this, I would say, and they're not. So seeing people active, seeing people speaking to the people that are political or that are looking to seek possibly getting more into politics or whatever, that's what we need to still see. That's who we see really has that drive and that fuel that can be our next leader or should remain a part of leadership for the country of the United States of America, or should I say un-United States. That's what I look to see. Kamala Harris has run for president, right? She lost. The last time I seen her, she was laughing at Americans. She was laughing, right? That's part of why she lost, because she's a joke. Regardless of your Democratic Party, we have to get the right people in that's going to come and do the work. From what I've been seeing, Trump has been doing the work so much and so quickly that Americans don't know how to wrap their minds around it. But you wanted him in, he's in, right? He's doing what he said he was going to do, right? Right or wrong? Y'all can let me know in the chat. I will be reading the chat. We need active leadership. I'm tired of them just going to the Senate floor, making viral moments, and then we see them. Other than that, we need to see action. We need to see people speaking out, but speaking with the people and taking questions. Bernie took questions last night. I like seeing people not only just take the podium, but take questions. If you're not going to do Q&A right, then don't do it at all. So as we see, the military is very reluctant to give much information, but they're giving very little. So I guess that's all they feel that they can give us at this time. So I'll show some more of that right here, and then some reactions of, politicians, media, things like that. And I'm looking to see if y'all want to speak on anything. Like I said, the link is there. I'll keep checking on the link, make sure it's visible. And there's also a phone line. So either way you can reach to get through. Share your thoughts if you have any thoughts that you would like to share on this. I'm sure you do. But I guess sometimes when y'all got the opportunity, y'all get scared. This ain't the time to be scared. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person that knows war is always going on anyway. I believe in peace, but I believe in reality, and I know what the reality is. So none of this stuff shocks me. Nothing scares me. None of it. I get nervous to speak, but there's things that are pushing me to speak. There's entities pushing me to speak. You know what I'm saying? I communicate with the universe, not just people down here on this planet. This ain't enough. So sometimes it helps to link with some of y'all. If you'd like to share any of your thoughts, feel welcome here at Kiy NY7. Thank you.
I want to recognize our soldiers doing air defense, base defense, QRF, warriors, all of them. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. And I want to give recognition to our allies in Israel as well. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. In that way, it was historic. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war, but let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word. I want to give congratulations to our Commander-in-Chief. It was an honor to watch him lead last night and throughout, and to our great American warriors on this successful operation. God bless our troops. God bless America. And we give glory to God for his providence and continue to ask for his protection. I turn it over now to the chairman for specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for recognizing all of our folks out there doing our nation's work, and nice to see everybody on this early Sunday morning. Last night on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world. At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, and just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command Area of Responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Isfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordo and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Isfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions. Phil.
Me?
Yeah.
So, is regime change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The President authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the President decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process, wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that...
And once again, you're watching an ABC News special report. This is a press briefing from the Pentagon happening right now. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, talking to reporters right now about this historic and extraordinary strike on Iran. The U.S. carrying out military strikes on 3 separate nuclear facilities. Defense Secretary Hegseth saying it was an incredible, overwhelming success. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated, and praising President Trump for what he called a plan that was bold and brilliant. He also there at the end, you heard some questions from reporters, the Defense Secretary saying the mission was not about regime change, but overall throughout this press conference talking about these extraordinary details. This was the largest use of B-2 bombers in American history. It was also the first use of those massive ordnance penetrators, or what they call MOPs. These are those bunker-busting bombs that only the United States has. The only armed military in the whole world that has these types of bombs that can penetrate deep into these nuclear facilities. More than 125 aircraft participated in this mission. Let's go ahead and bring in our ABC News contributor, former Marine Colonel Steve Ganyard, who has also been a Defense and State Department official. And Colonel Ganyard, one thing that we heard over and over in this press conference, it was a decoy, deception effort, and the element of surprise.
Yeah, Whit, and I think we talked about this last night, where everybody was caught off guard. So the operational security here was actually quite extraordinary. So we were seeing reports on Friday that there was a wave of B-2s that was coming across the Pacific. So all eyes were looking at what might be happening. Are those B-2s going to Guam? Meanwhile, the 7 B-2s that were used in this strike took off and headed east and came across the Atlantic through the Mediterranean. And so everybody's looking over here. They snuck in and nobody knew, so good OPSEC on the Pentagon side. I think the other thing that strikes me here, Whit, is the number of aircraft involved. 125, as you said. So this was not just a few B-2s flying over a target and some Tomahawks. There were likely F-22s, F-35s, F-15s that were out in front escorting the B-2s over the target area. There were preemptive drops of ordnance on surface-to-air missile sites. They were shooting missiles that actually home in on missile sites. So this was quite a huge, extensive practice project, and so really quite remarkable.
Steve Ganyard, stand by for a moment. We just want to go back to the Pentagon. This press briefing is still underway, and they're answering some questions from reporters. Let's listen in, and then we'll chat on the backside.
They can't have, but President Trump has said from over 20 years, frankly, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And ultimately, he decided this is the moment, given their stonewalling, when direct military action had to be taken to prevent that from happening. Yes?
Thank you very much. General Kane, I understand OPSEC, I respect OPSEC. Can you say at all what security procedures are being taken to protect U.S. troops in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East? And Secretary Hegseth, as a global war on terrorism veteran, what do you say to veterans who may be concerned the U.S. is getting into another open-ended war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction?
Thanks, sir, for the question. I won't comment on what force protection measures are being taken in the region. What I will say is we're being proactive and not reactive, and being very thoughtful about ensuring that we do all that we can to protect our forces out there.
And I would just say, as the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people. But what the president gave us, as I said, was a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand, as the president put out last night. He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets and force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and in working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have got.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad to be with you this morning. Actually, we invited you yesterday for a briefing on the latest developments on the ground and, of course, on diplomatic process. Because I came here from Geneva, where we had our first ministerial meeting of Iran E3, and then I had here yesterday lots of useful, important meetings with the foreign ministers of our region, and we discussed about different initiatives and ideas existed for a peaceful settlement of this question. But as all of you know, we suddenly faced with the aggression by American forces to our nuclear facilities. The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its
All right, so it looks like
act
this
of
is the Middle
aggression.
East's first response to being
The
bombed
U.S.
last
military
night by the
attack
US.
on the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of a UN member state carried out with genocidal Israeli regime, carried out in collusion with the genocidal Israeli regime, has once again revealed the extent of the United States' hostility towards the peace-seeking people of Iran, who will never compromise over their independence and sovereignty. The Islamic Republic of Iran continues to defend Iran's territory, sovereignty, security, and people by all means necessary against not just US military aggression, but also the reckless and unlawful actions of the Israeli regime. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives. The US act of aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities constitutes not only a flagrant breach of the UN Charter, especially the prohibition of the use of force under Article 2, Paragraph 4, and the obligation to respect a state's territorial integrity and sovereignty, but also a violation of UN Security Council Resolution 2231. It cannot be emphasized enough how much of a devastating blow that the US, a permanent member of the Security Council, has dealt to the global non-proliferation regime. The Islamic Republic of Iran reminds the United Nations, the Security Council, the UN Secretary General, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and other relevant international bodies of their duty and responsibility to take urgent and decisive action in response to this breach of international law. Silence in the face of such blatant aggression will plunge the world into an unprecedented level of danger and chaos. Humanity has come too far as a species to allow a lawless bully to take us back to the law of the jungle. The Islamic Republic of Iran calls on the Security Council to convene an emergency session to unequivocally condemn the criminal act of aggression by the United States against Iran and to hold the administration in Washington accountable for its violations of fundamental principles of United Nations Charter and of norms of international law. The responsibility of the IAEA and its Director General, who through evident bias in favor of warmongering parties paved the way for the current violence and bloodshed, is now clearer than ever. We call on the IAEA Board of Governors to immediately convene and carry out its legal responsibility in response to the dangerous US attack on Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, all of which have been under the agency's full safeguards and monitoring. The world must not forget that it was the United States which, in the midst of a process to forge a diplomatic outcome, betrayed diplomacy by supporting the genocidal Israeli regime's launch of an illegal war of aggression on the Iranian nation. Not content with such malign actions, the United States itself has now also opted for a dangerous military operation and aggression against the people of Iran. In doing so, the US administration holds sole and full responsibility for the consequences of its actions, including the Islamic Republic of Iran's right to self-defense under the principles of the United Charter. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response in self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its security, interests, and people. Thank you very much.
We will now be taking questions. We'd like to start with the Associated Press.
Whoever can.
Distinguished Minister, are the doors for negotiation still open? Can you hear me now? Distinguished Minister, the question is as follows. Is the door for negotiations still open?
And again, we were in the middle of talks and negotiation with Europeans, happened only 2 days ago in Geneva, when this time Americans decided to blow it up. So we were in diplomacy, but we were attacked militarily. So it was not Iran, but the US who betrayed diplomacy. They betrayed negotiations. When at the middle of negotiations with us, they gave green light to Israelis, if not instructed them to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. I think they have proved that they are not men of diplomacy, and they only understand the language of threat and force. And this is very unfortunate. The United States showed that they have no respect to United Nations Charter. They have no respect to international law. They have no respect to any international law regarding, managing the world and facing challenges of the world. There is no red line that they have not crossed. And the last one, and the most dangerous one, happened only last night, when they crossed a very big red line by attacking nuclear facilities. I don't know how much room is left for diplomacy. We are now calculating the damages. And as I said, the damages are not only for our nuclear facilities, the damages are for the United Nations Charter. It was not only Iran's facilities which was bombed, it was also the United Nations Charter. It was also non-proliferation regime and NPT, which was bombed last night by Americans. And it was the rule of law and international law which was bombed. So now we have to see how much room is left for diplomacy, and we will decide.
I'd like to hand over to TRT World.
Mr. Minister, the U.S. President Donald Trump warned that Iran must now make peace, otherwise the future attacks, he says, would be far greater and much easier. So how is Tehran responding to death threats from Washington? Thank you.
I think it's not up to Iran to respond to that. The whole international community should respond of such a clear threat against the United Nations Charter. Iran has done nothing wrong. We do not understand why Iran should be attacked for a false accusation that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. It's now more than 20 years that we are trying to prove that our peaceful nuclear program is in fact peaceful and would remain peaceful. We negotiated for a long time with the so-called P5+1, and we came to a deal which the whole world celebrated as an achievement of diplomacy. And then it was the US who withdrew from that deal and reimposed their sanctions and restarted their threats. Again, we were negotiating with the same administration. Then all of a sudden they decided to attack us, first by Israelis, then by themselves. And now they are threatening us for more attacks. So it's not up to Iran, but it's up to international community to condemn this, to prevent this. Otherwise, there would be nothing left for the international law, for the security
at the world level. The Security Council should play its role, should play its responsibility to condemn and prevent these kind of threats. We will certainly defend our interest. We will certainly defend our territorial integrity, our sovereignty, and our people. And I'm so glad that our people are now fully understand what injustice they are doing against the Iranian people. They are united and in solidarity with the government, and we stand firm against any aggression.
Next, CNN Türk.
Mr. Minister, how do you assess the West's stance on Israel massacres? No one seems to mention Israel's allegedly illegal nuclear weapons. The German Chancellor even said Israel is doing the dirty work for us. So what is your response? Thank you.
Well, what should I say? You said everything. That Iran is under attack by a nuclear-armed superpower and a nuclear-armed regime. And Iran, as you know, is a non-nuclear armed country. That should be certainly condemned. If not, the whole non-proliferation regime would be undermined and would be defeated. Iran is a committed member of NPT. But NPT is not able to protect us. So why a country like Iran or other countries who are interested to have a peaceful nuclear energy should rely on NPT for their peaceful activities? It is very unfortunate that Israel is doing, as the German Chancellor called, a dirty job. And by the way, they supported that dirty job. It's a shame. They know that Israel is doing a dirty job and they support it, and they give it every right to do it, and they call it defending itself. It's really a shame. Pardon? Well, I think I'm not in a position to reveal what we are going to do in response to what Americans did last night. I just talked about the fact that NPT failed to protect Iran from and its peaceful nuclear program, and this is a serious challenge.
Next, we'd like to take a question from IRIB.
Well, we can speak now to Dr. Victor Gao, who is the Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization, who joins us from Beijing. Dr. Gao, always a pleasure talking to you. We've never talked about the state of relations between China and Iran before, so why don't we make that the starting point? How would you describe the state of ties between Beijing and Tehran?
Thank you very much for having me. China highly respects Iran as a sovereign nation with territorial integrity, and the two countries engage with each other on equal terms. And China does not recognize the extraterritoriality of any other country's one-sided and self-imposed sanctions against another country or against China. Therefore, when China deals with Iran, we deal with Iran in all spheres of relations, including energy cooperation. And I don't think this is a problem. And if a third country cries foul, the problem is really with itself, with its in attempted extraterritoriality of its unilaterally imposed sanctions. And I think once this Israel-initiated war against Iran started, the Chinese government's position is very clear. Israel is in violation of a self-imposed war against a member of the United Nations, against its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and China really deplores Israel's military attack on nuclear facilities inside Iran and considered it as a very serious offense against world peace and security.
Okay, I mean, just to give you the Israeli line on what you just said, what we're told by Israeli officials repeatedly on this channel is that Iran is very close to being able to build a nuclear weapon. It might already be able to do so. And they're constantly calling for the destruction of Israel. So they say what they're doing is preemptive self-defense. What do you make of that argument?
It is of high hypocrisy for a country like Israel, which violated international convention in possessing nuclear weapon to start with. And now it's accusing another country, Iran, for attempting to acquire nuclear weapons. I don't think there are any higher level of double standard and hypocrisy for Israel to accuse another country of trying to possess nuclear weapons. I think the Middle East will be much better off if Israel arms itself with nuclear weapons and no other country will want to possess nuclear weapons. That will probably create a better level playground for all the countries involved in the Middle East. For Israel to possess nuclear weapons and to constantly threaten other countries with nuclear attack is really a very serious problem. And I think international community really need to join together to put an end to such blatant violation of peace and security, not only in the Middle East, but in the world at large.
We've heard from the president of China, President Xi Jinping, saying on Tuesday that China is, quote, deeply worried about Israel's military operation against Iran. Where do you think you and the president of China see things heading to? Why the worry? How dangerous could the situation be?
Well, as a general point, China is always worried if a war breaks out. And this time, this war is a complete surprise attack launched by Israel against a sovereign and independent country like Iran. And the fact that this surprise attack took place when the United States and Iran are still engaged in discussions about how to end this nuclear problem is particularly surprising. It's, in my best judgment, it's like the Japanese surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in the Second World War. And I think Israel has also committed all the crimes in massively killing the government officials, military officials of Iran. And no country should tolerate any other country like Israel to commit such massive amount of assassinations before a formal declaration of war against Iran, for example. So I think the Chinese president is legitimately worried about the scale of the attack, the potential loss of life, as well as the potential escalation of the situation, because you never know how this situation may evolve eventually, whether it will get out of control, whether it will escalate from conventional war to nuclear war, for example, or whether, ironically, it will force Iran to really develop a nuclear weapon. And what will be the consequence for Israel and Iran to both have nuclear weapons? Do they really want to use nuclear weapons against each other? What will be the consequence for peace and security in the Middle East and in the world at large? Therefore, it is time to call on Prime Minister Netanyahu, stop all the craziness. He probably wants to save his political skin rather than really serving the fundamental interest of the people in Israel to launch such unilateral, self-imposed surprise attack on a big country, a great country like Iran.
Dr. Gao, on Tuesday, China accused the US President Trump of pouring oil on the conflict there between Iran and Israel. Why and how does Beijing see the United States making things worse with regards to this situation?
Well, I think evidence points out to a joint operation by the United States and Israel against the country of Iran. They probably have a division of work. The United States was not very much involved on the surface of the situation, but no one should be surprised if the United States highly coordinates its information gathering, etc., with Israel. And the fact that Israel has kept saying that the United States is involved from the very beginning of the war, etc., illustrates the level of cooperation and collaboration between the United States and Israel against Iran. And the United States still keeps saying that they are not involved, but then they need to come up with a proof that they are not involved. And not being involved is not sufficient. And the United States really need to pull all their levers to force Israel to stop this war against Iran, and also to stop Israel from misusing the United States, creating all the misinformation about that the United States and Israel are working together to, for example, destroy Iran or to create a regime change in Iran, etc. So I think it is time for the United States. My personal concern is that if the United States really gets bogged down in this war against Iran, no one knows what will happen to the United States in the coming years or coming decades.
Well, that could be beneficial for China, couldn't it? Because if the United States spends large sums of money, a considerable amount of time and attention on affairs in the Middle East, that leaves China to do what it wants to do in a more, let's say, unrestrained way.
Allow me to emphasize one point. China always benefits by protecting peace and stability anywhere in the world. And China will feel very much at a loss if peace and stability and prosperity anywhere in the world will be damaged by especially unilaterally imposed war of one country against the other country. Therefore, such benefit, if any, that China will enjoy is not for China's own benefit. It is for peace and stability and the well-being of mankind. It is time to stop Israel in this war against Iran and to prevent the United States from really joining this war together with Israel, which may escalate the situation and create unprepared consequences for mankind as a whole.
You mentioned regime change in your earlier response, and I want to pick up on that because we heard from President Trump on social media saying, quote, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but he is safe there. We're not going to take him out, at least not for now." How would China react if the United States did, or if Israel did, kill the supreme leader?
This is exactly the confusion that President Trump is creating deliberately or unintentionally. I don't think assassination of a head of state or head of government or political leaders or military leaders of another country is the right thing to do in the world of today. I think countries need to have the minimum decency and the protocol in dealing with another country. Assassination is the bad thing, and assassination may serve as a boomerang, eventually may come back to hurt yourself and haunt you. Therefore, engaging in assassination, especially against head of state or leader of another religious faith, for example, or against the major political and military leaders of another sovereign country, is the wrong thing to do, especially at a time when Israel has self-imposed this undeclared war in a surprise attack against Iran. This is the worst time for the head of the state of the United States to imply that assassination may be involved in killing the leader of Iran.
You mentioned in your first answer, you painted a picture of a very cordial set of relations, cordial ties between Beijing and Tehran. Let me put this scenario to you. If Iran goes the same way as, for example, Syria, and the assassination that you mentioned or otherwise brings about a change of management, shall we say, in Iran, I mean, that would be a loss for China, wouldn't it? Because you'd have lost an ally, a key ally in this region. Because if a pro-Western government replaces the government that's there already, that would be a loss for China, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think so. I think China has always the long perspective and historical perspective to look at any contemporary events, like what had happened in Syria and what is happening in Iran. We are not confused by the events on a day-to-day basis. We look at the situation in 10 years, in 100 years, sometimes 500 years, if not even longer. Therefore, in the historical perspective, if you really look at the situation in the long-haul perspective, war is bad. For Israel to impose an undeclared war on Iran is an aggression. And whatever Iran is doing is justified because they are defending their own sovereignty and territorial integrity. They are fighting back against aggressors. And if the United States wants to join Israel to become an aggressor against Iran, well, history will eventually have its own verdict. Therefore, I think all of us need to work on with Israel to stop the war as quickly as possible and come up with peaceful ways to negotiate with Iran. And I personally will completely support the ending of whatever nuclear weapon program, if any, by Iran. And I do hope Israel will also dispossess nuclear weapons and Middle East will become a nuclear-free zone. That will be in the best interest of all the countries in that particular part of the world. China will do its best to promote the real justified result for any such tension or conflict of war, and China will do its best to prevent the war from escalating or from spreading out, impacting on more countries and hurting more people in that part of the world.
The United States and some of its allies view China as being part of what it now calls CRINC, which is this new acronym which is being bandied around quite a bit by foreign policy talking heads on television channels all over the world. CRINC meaning China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. I don't know what you think of that acronym, if you've heard it used much before, but let me just ask you this. Were the United States to intervene and join forces with Israel in a very overt way and join that conflict, do you see a day that China or Russia or other actors could perhaps join in support of Iran?
Well, imposing a war on a great country like Iran with 1.66 million square kilometers and with up to more than 90 million people, and a country which has tremendous amount of spiritual leadership among the Shia people throughout the world, is really poking for more disaster if it is not stopped right away. And if other countries want to join the fight on the side of Israel, I will urge them to stop that right away. And if, for example, other countries want to join the fight against Iran, you never want to exclude the possibility that other major countries want to fight together with Iran, because the war imposed on Iran is the unjustified war. It's a war of aggression. It's undeclared war. It's a surprise attack. And any people, any country under such surprise attack, an attack of aggression, has full legal justification to fight back. Therefore, stopping the war right now is the best way. Allowing it to escalate and to get out of control will most likely hurt the fundamental interests of the people in Israel, as well as in Iran and in many other countries in that particular part of the world. And I think China's doing the right thing, urging on Israel to stop the war, urging on Iran not to escalate, for example, try to wrap up the situation so that all parties involved can talk about peace rather than war and war and war. China does not like war of any kind, and China does not want to see any country launching a war of aggression against another country.
And just lastly, that acronym, CRINC, viewed as being a group of hostile or adversarial nations by Washington and some of its allies. What do you make of it? What do you make of the acronym?
First of all, whatever acronyms you come up with, it cannot change the fact that China today is the major force defending peace and stability and development in the world. And the fact that China is the largest trading nation with more than 140 countries in the world speaks eloquently about what China really cares about. That is, promoting peace, defending free trade, for example. If anyone wants to confuse China with a force against the peace, then he or she is either out of their mind or completely falsifying the situation against China. Now, I would urge the United States, don't mess around with China. Don't view China as an enemy. China is not an enemy of the United States. China has tremendous amount of goodwill for the American people. And China and the United States, like President Trump said, if they work together, they can work out miracles and no problem in the world cannot be overcome. And there will be better peace and stability and better future for mankind as a whole. If anyone bets that China and the United States will have a war against each other, let me tell you, they are wrong. I always promote the inevitability of peace between China and the United States. War is not and should not be viewed as an option between China and the United States. And China and the United States have added a responsibility to promote peace and to bring this war, for example, initiated by Israel against Iran to a stop as quickly as possible for the benefit of mankind. No one should allow Prime Minister Netanyahu try to saving his own political scheme from justice at home and justice in Hague by launching this war of aggression against Iran. He will not be able to escape from the reach of law, either both inside Israel as well as in The Hague.
Okay, well, on that note, we wrap up. Thank you very much indeed. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Victor Gao.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
All right, so everyone here, shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all being here. Also, for being as respectful, I guess, as we can right now. So a lot is going on. The United States, I don't like saying United States because there's nothing united about the United. So I say America. America bombed Iran yesterday evening. I came on last night. I showed Trump when he first gave his speech. Following that, he spoke for maybe 5 to 10 minutes or so, less than 10 minutes. This morning, we went right into our U.S. Defense Secretary, Hagseth, and a couple others that spoke, and they took Q&A. If anyone would like to speak while I'm still here live, I'll be here for a little while longer. There is a link through Streamlabs, and then there's also a phone number. If you have something on your mind to you can call, chime in on that. Everyone has something to say, I'm sure. It's just, do you have enough nerve to do it? If not, forever hold your peace. We just heard from China. We just heard from an Iranian leader. And all that is late breaking. A lot of people are not aware that Iran has spoken. So everyone here is some of the first people to know because it just broke. So I hurried up and added it to the stream so that we could all watch it together. Regardless on your view of it, it's just a question. Excuse me. It's just, if you'd like to share your thoughts, you could do so. You may feel more at peace after also. All views are welcome here. I have mine. There's people that feel we should be in this war. The U.S. America should join. And I say almost 50-50. Half the people of the population feel that this should be happening. The other half feels it should not be happening and that it is not the Americans' place in this war. So I wonder what your thoughts are. I'm reading the chat. A lot of people, some people are saying no war, but I do see a lot of y'all saying go Trump, go Trump. So I think a lot of people too that are in favor of Trump are going to push towards the war, or anything he wants to do, you're going to want to do anyway. So there's some people that are just like that. Me, I like to just know the facts and go off of that. I'm going to show some more reactions too before we go, but yeah. Freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of speech. It don't matter if I agree with you or not. I feel the urge to make sure, especially certain times when I do live streams, to make sure people know that their voice could be heard too. You don't have to say where you're at. You don't have to say, who you are if you don't really want to, but just know that you could be heard here. But if you rather just type, you can do that too. Let me just show something real quick, and then we can get back to some reactions right here. This is Donald Trump. So this is one of the bombs. So when he announced Iranian nuclear sites, here is a B-2 stealth bomber. Is it showing on the screen? Oh, my fault. And please be mindful of the language. I don't curse. I know y'all curse, and I can understand a lot's going on, but I just ask you to be as respectful as possible, please, because that does help. All right. This is a picture of the B-12 stealth bomber, the GBU. You heard them speaking of GBU 57A. It's a massive ordnance penetrator bomb. So this is one that was used, okay? President Donald Trump said Saturday last night, that the United States had bombed Iran's 3 nuclear sites at Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. All right, so these 3 sites are most significant as it is built inside of a mountain and is buried deep inside the earth. Speaking of earth, I like talking about astronomy here too. So please consider subscribing, hitting like sometime, comment and chat. It's an open chat room, period. All right. But I do speak on a lot of things that have to do with inner community, spirituality, our energies and things like that. But I do also have things like this that just have to be talked about because it affects everyone. War affects everyone. Back to this. It is where Iran enriched uranium to near weapons grade level. So no Israel weapons could reach the underground site. So I'm gonna go right back. So I want to show y'all exactly what it looks like too. So we know what we're working with here, all right? Also right here, we have the B-2 stealth bombers that hit 3 Iranian nuclear sites, okay? What is a stealth bomber? It's touted as the most expensive military aircraft ever built. It cost about $2.1 billion. So they are around 3.24 billion each, which doesn't make sense. That's how they worded it. This is at ABC. Made by Northrop Grumman Corporation. B-2 bombers are the only aircraft capable of carrying a bomb large enough to impact Iran's primary and most protected Fordo nuclear facility, which has been built deep into a mountain. Okay, there's some people that say this is all a lie. There's nothing in the mountain. So, there's a lot of back and forth. I'm just showing y'all the facts from reliable sources that I see fit. Okay. The aircraft can carry a diverse array of conventional and nuclear weapons. All right. I've always been taught that too, that the U.S. has the most powerful weapons, that we are the most powerful when it comes to war. Okay. And I say I because I'm a part of the states too. It's in my name, NY. I'm Kiy NY7. So the NY, for those that don't get it, stands for New York. So I did want to show you guys that. Again, you just saw the reaction right there. So we're going to go over to what we got here. Okay, 1 second. I want to go back to, I was in a whole nother video. Okay. So we saw the Iran spec. Okay. Now we'll get right back into, we can go right back to the speech that was given by the U.S., but then I did want to see if some Democrats weighed in on any of this. And if so, I'll go back to them.
Clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
And again, while the info is available,
thank you,
while
Mr.
I'm on live, you
Secretary.
can always
Question
chime in
for
if you'd like to
Secretary
share
and
your thoughts.
the chairman.
Okay.
How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike.
Hi, my fault. I just read the chat just now. Hi, are you still there? There's someone that joined the stream.
Yeah, it's all good.
How you doing? What would you like to add?
I'm doing good. I personally, I'm very. I don't know about pro-Israel so much, but I'm definitely pro-Israel with respect to Iran. And personally, I think like the bombing was actually pretty justified. I do think that they were trying to create nuclear weapons. There was intel that they were going to give tactical nuclear weapons to, I think it was the Yemeni rebels. And Israel's too small of a country to be taking any sort of a hit from a tactical nuclear weapon, so that's why it's such an urgent response. And that's why it's kind of seeming like it's coming out of nowhere,
Oh, okay. Okay. So you feel that based on the intel that you're aware of, that Iran was basically doing something sneaky and was going to plan to go ahead and attack Israel in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, especially like they already have their proxies attacking Israel. They're very anti-US. They're part of this like larger anti-Western coalition. Russia, Iran, China. They all want control over their regions. They all coordinate and support each other. And Israel is the thing that's keeping the U.S. in the region. So I think if Iran gets rid of Israel, it would be much easier for Iran to basically just take hold of the region and block the U.S. essentially.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I noticed too, some people in the chat were saying Iran was given a few months to make a decision to have this together by now. So this is what they get, somewhat in favor of what you're speaking on too. I wish no war had to occur, but it's just mankind. So we'll see what happens. But to totally take over Israel would be crazy. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think ideally they honestly would just want to commit a genocide against Israel. I think that they do not, like the Iranian government does not care about human life, and it's awful that there are any wars in Palestine and, with Iran. Like none of this should have happened, but this is just governments overreaching and not caring about their populations.
All right, okay. I also have to say though, when it comes to Israel, I feel like Israel is always wanting help with wars that didn't actually occur, might not have occurred in the past. I watch the Young Turks at times. They're a channel here on YouTube. They spoke on it. Anna broke it down so well. She's like way more political and she just put it in a very good way. She was on CNN recently. Actually, I'm going to try to find that clip. She was feeling like Israel was always crying. It's not that serious. You just want US to join in and help you just bully, not help, but bully other lands. And I do agree with what she said with that. I hear what you're saying too. But it just feels like at least a decade in my recollection, Israel has just always been crying like, oh my God, we need help. They're coming for us. And I start to feel like you're like the boy that cried wolf story. I don't want you to go get blown to smithereens first, but I just personally don't feel that I've seen enough evidence that such attacks were going to come to them. And I guess I'm just kind of tired of it, tired of the US always jumping in things that aren't as related to us. But on one hand, those that believe in Christ and Jesus Christ and Christianity, because I have to say that, religious people, whether you're religious or, or not, we all know the story of Jesus. And it's like, Jerusalem in those areas, they're holy land, so they should never have so much hatred going on, even thought of anywhere near that area. So even as I was a child, my mind just doesn't wrap around war even being anywhere near Israel. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of mind boggling to me. You know, if we know our history and then what's going on now, it's pretty crazy. And it does seem like we may end up into more of a world war because we just heard from China, and we're hearing from other nations that should be weighing in, I guess, pretty soon. You know, we'll see what they have to say about that. Do you feel that more countries are going to be getting involved and it's just going to get worse, or do you think it might get better?
I think probably the Iranian regime is going to fall. Russian state news actually said that China should get involved, and Russia has refused to get involved. So maybe China gets involved, but I don't think they want to. Yeah, it seems like they're probably going to lose their partner in this. And in terms of Israel crying wolf, I don't know so much about the history of the Middle East. All I can do is, make predictions based on what's currently going on. And I seem to be pretty spot on with it. But in terms of the history, I mean, absolutely, Israel could have been crying wolf, and like they've done horrible things throughout history too. It's not like they're perfect. Yeah, hopefully things end soon, but I can't see things ending well. Like either things are going to end poorly for Israel in terms of propaganda, the cognitive warfare dimension, or it's going to end poorly for Iran, where the Iranian regime falls and there's going to be a regime switch, probably by Israel. Maybe the U.S. would be involved in that too.
Okay.
But you said about Anna talking about Israel. If you could get that clip, I'd actually really like to see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna look on CNN. I'm doing it right now too, because what they did was they put it to their members only, and I'm actually not a member over there. Let me see something on CNN. Okay, it was really good too, and she was so nervous that they were going to give her a lot of pushback because of what she was saying, but they didn't. And I'm like, well, good, because she's just a great speaker, and we all have to sit at the table and be able to discuss and not feel attacked ourselves. So that's why I learned to do that on my channel too. I still have my views, but I was a little more closed-minded, and I said, you got to let other people weigh in on things and try to be understanding so that can help me more. And if I'm really here to help others, I have to take in from others' views, and then as well as adding to it. Okay, this looks like it's it right here. This is if you can see it on the screen. Okay, good. You can see it.
I think this is a problem regardless of what administration is in charge. We should not engage in this war. Look, there's a lot of saber rattling. There's a lot of fear mongering about Iran building nuclear weapons, even though the intel is obviously contradicting. You have Israel saying weeks ago, they shared their intel with the United States and the administration rejected it. Our intelligence community rejected it. They said Iran is not weeks away from building a nuclear weapon. But you want to know something? There are two countries in this whole scenario that do have nuclear weapons. One, of course, is the United States of America. The other, they don't acknowledge it, is Israel. So they act like, oh, we're just little lambs, and it's such a big threat. Okay. The whole thing about nuclear weapons, the reason why the United States can't allow Ukraine to do whatever it wants against Russia is because they're a nuclear power. It is a deterrent.
Well, Ukraine had nukes, remember.
Israel doesn't want Iran to have a deterrent. Now, in a perfect world, neither of those countries would have nuclear weapons, but one of them does, and the one that does loves to cry about how it's always under threat while it's bombing Iranian embassies in places like Syria, while it's literally allowing its IDF soldiers to shoot at international diplomats as they're visiting Jenin. Like, are we ever going to at least address the belligerence of the current Israeli government?
Also shooting at people in Gaza when they're trying to get aid.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't expect anyone to agree with me. You never hear that on cable news. I will admit that. And I'm not trying to give myself props.
So see, she was a bit surprised that, she didn't get pushed back, and because everyone seems to kind of have their same narrative. I noticed that with, of course, with political parties, but I'm someone that kind of likes to just call it down the middle even more now. And I've been disappointed with all political party so much that I have to do my own thinking on my own, and I do my own research. And I like to come on and share it sometime on here.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And I think that's something everybody in the audience should do as well, is not limit, like try to be more open-minded, not limit yourself. Like I have always disagreed with Anna Kasparian. I do not like the Young Turks, but I still think it's worth listening to them and worth giving them a chance, because just because I disagree with them on some things doesn't mean I'm going to disagree with them on everything, right? Anna could say something that's actually really useful information that I just never heard before, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I think that was it. I said that it. Yeah, then they just spoke. Oh, wait, was that oh, okay, here was the, wait, let's see if I spoke that down.
Striking Israel's nuclear sites and thinks the United States should provide the, huge bomb.
This is good too, because she literally was so against what the U.S. just did last.
I want to put words in her mouth. She's in favor of striking Israel's nuclear sites and thinks the United States should provide the realm, and is in favor of a regime. Okay, this is a short clip. So the first segment, there was a woman who worked for the Obama administration sitting next to me. I think she worked in the Pentagon. I could be mistaken, but clearly she worked in the foreign policy realm and is in favor of a regime change war in Iran. Or no, I'm sorry, I don't want to put words in her mouth. She's in favor of striking Israel's nuclear sites and thinks the United States should provide the, huge bomb, 30,000 pound bomb, to kind of get into that nuclear site that's under a mountain. So I didn't agree with her on a lot, but I did take one small thing she said as an opportunity to add to it. So let's take a look at L2.
The JV team in Yemen.
They're historically weakened.
That's why suddenly you're seeing them take advantage of something that when I was at the White House back, this is 2010 and 11, Israel had been planning attacks back then. They've planned this for years and years.
33-year war in the making. I mean, Netanyahu has been saying that Iran is on the precipice of having a nuclear weapon. It's like 33 years ago. That's who he is.
It's the IA.
This is 33 years, Kate. 33 years. Days away from obtaining a nuclear weapon. We must invade Iran. We have to have, regime change. Like, just, she annoyed me, right? Because she's like, oh, I wouldn't have been in favor of striking Iran's nuclear sites before, but I'm in favor now. And it's like, okay, but what changed? Yeah. That they're enriching more uranium? Okay, but can you blame them considering the fact that like why would you abide by a nuclear deal that doesn't exist?
Yeah. So at the end, you hear her, I think in that clip, say well, it's not like, I know Netanyahu has been saying this for 30 years, but now it's different because the IAEA is saying it.
Except
and if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure she's probably referring to the report like a week ago where they said, well, Iran's not complying anymore, and we think that they're enriching more uranium, which is bad, totally acknowledged bad. But then as we played literally earlier on the show today, one of the directors from the IAEA is coming out and saying, but we have literally zero confirmation that they're actually trying to make a bomb. So she's not telling the full story there. And and there's also I think there's confusion over the difference between enriching the uranium and actually making the physical bomb, because some of these reports say they could probably enrich enough uranium within days. Which if you end it there, that sounds terrifying, of course, and it is.
All right, let me unmute myself. Yeah, you there?
Hey
I don't know if you dropped off and came. Are you someone new?
I'm someone new. Yep.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm Iranian myself. I noticed you were, I noticed the stream, so I thought I'd kind of weigh in. So I just want to get an idea of your position. It sounds to me, I didn't really hear that much of what you said yet, but it seems like you're a little undecided. You're uncertain about your position on this. Is that right?
No, I don't. I don't think we should have bombed Iran. No, I don't
You don't
think we
think
should
that we
have been
should
involved in it. I
that
didn't
the
come
U.S.
out and say it, but that is how I feel. I'm
Okay.
just a little undecisive because I'm a little bit undereducated with some of the some of the underlying facts that are going on, like
Mhm.
whether or not they were really already trying, how much we should be supporting Israel. I'm for Israel too. I'm against war, period. But if you have to do it, can you do it because you felt you had to do it? And I'm just not convinced that we had to do it. And thank you to the caller that was just here. I'm sorry I didn't hear if he had to leave or whatever. Thank you for calling in. And thank you for calling in. Chiming in now. I'll let you speak.
Can I just weigh in on? Oh, sorry. I thought you were you saying? Can I weigh in on my opinion?
Yes, I was saying I'm letting you speak. Thanks for chiming in.
Oh,
Yes,
sure,
go
sure.
ahead.
My bad. So on June 12th, like I think they were explaining here that the International Atomic Energy Agency had released a warning. Iran continues to enrich uranium at 60% purity. And in order to do, regular, what would you say, peaceful, the production of power, for example, you'd have to have it at a maximum 3.67%. And this is something they've agreed to in the past, but they've completely like botched their agreements they've had. They botched the agreement they had with Obama. They've basically acted like bullies on the international stage. But not only that, it's like if we don't act soon enough, more violence could, like a nuclear bomb is much more violent than what's happening right now. So I believe that this is a necessary step in protecting the lives of Israelis as well as the U.S.
Okay. So you gave some great detail on some of
Yeah.
what's been brewing.
Well, I'm a bit confused about what Anna Kasparian just said. Maybe I just don't understand something, but she said that they don't have any evidence that they're creating a nuclear weapon. Well, the fact that they have 60% purity for uranium, that is evidence. I mean, there's no other purpose to have uranium at that purity level.
Okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. I'm gonna have to look more into that too. I'm gonna be doing
Sure.
that too, taking my notes. I'm always researching, and it's extremely important. No matter
Right.
where you live, this affects. In some ways, it feels like it affects everyone. So, I'm glad to have this conversation with y'all. You know, ch- um, Weighing in on this too. It's extremely important to me. So, yeah.
Like
Um,
since 1979, this regime has been in power, and they care more about their ideology than they do their own lives. That's why we're actually in a heightened state of danger even right now, because they could go out like similar to how whatever you want to call the kamikaze idea of like, oh, they're about to like be destroyed, so they'll just drop the nuclear bomb while like in the middle of the war. You know what I mean? Perhaps there was one that they had prepared that we don't know about. These are guys that care more about their hate for Israel than they do about their own lives. I'm just talking about the government of Iran, not the people, because the people were scammed into this regime change in 1979.
Okay, I see here. January 1979, Shah Muhammad was ruled Iran over 2,500. Iranian Revolution. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit about the history if you want. Like, do you like? There's a history as to why Iran hates the West. So, in 1953, there was a CIA along with the British intelligence orchestrated coup. Like they orchestrated a coup in Iran, and they brought back the Shah, and the Shah is like pro-Western, anti anti-religious type of guy, and so they wanted him. And then Iran kind of got screwed on their oil reserves. I think that it was on our oil reserves, oil that came from our land. Britain got 87% of the profits, and we got a measly whatever the rest is, 18 something percent. We got a very small amount. They got 80 some percent. We got 20 some percent, and that's what kind of started the hate for the West.
Okay.
Yeah. But so.
You're starting to break up a bit. I think you were trying to say something.
No, that was it actually.
Oh, okay. I thought something was breaking up. Okay.
But
that information too.
I'm in a bit of a weird position because I wasn't, especially after the insurrection attempt, I was not a Trump fan at all. But I am thankful for him taking action on supplying Israel with the bunker bombers, because they don't have the means of destroying. Excuse me, did I say bunker? Yeah, I think they're called bunker
because they originally
bombers.
were going with the bunker, but then they switched over to the. I was just going over the specifics.
Bunker busters are called.
Yeah, but then they said they didn't use it. They ended up using the I just can't spit it out right now.
Is it the B-2 bombers? Is that?
Yes.
I thought those are bunker bombers.
Well,
No?
I thought the difference. Let me pull it up.
Let's take a look.
The B-2 stealth bombers, I thought was a whole different design as well. These I see them as stealth. The other ones reminded me of Mario, playing Mario Brothers. So that's all I keep thinking of is yes, this was what we had to defeat Bowser with.
Well, I guess this one requires, so obviously there were persons inside this plane.
But it looks like you're right. Maybe it's still the category of bunker buster, but the bunker buster, I would believe they would release and then would penetrate the ground for miles versus like you just stated, an actual person operating this one. GBU 57, right? I'll look into that too a little later.
So my prediction is that there is going to be a regime change in Iran and a new government. But first, they'll have to disarm this regime completely. So before assassinating the Ayatollah Khomeini, they're going to first disarm them completely, destroy all their military centers and commanders, high-ranking commanders and high-value people, and then go after the head of the snake. So I believe that's the plan.
Right. These are bunker bombs. It's just a different design. It confused me a bit. Okay. All right. Extremely high tech and all that. Yeah. And then above us is a scene live from Iran. It looked kind of eerie because it looks like there's just nothing moving. I don't know.
Oh, is that
areas? It looks like no one's alive.
Oh, is that Tehran? Interesting.
Yes. Let me go back. I believe this is live from Tel Aviv. Oh, Skyline in Israel after. Sorry, Israel.
This is Israel.
Iran.
I'd be surprised if you could find a live stream in Iran. I bet you they don't want that. They're very careful about what the media gets exposed to.
Yeah, that's true too. I thought I was doing something, but I guess.
And also, this picture looks like a very highly developed city, economically. Iran doesn't look this nice. Tehran doesn't look this nice. So this is probably Tel Aviv you're showing us.
some multi-screen, but then yeah, I gotta be careful too, because some places will say one thing and may not even be that exact footage. But yeah, you're right. So you're probably right about that. All right. Well, it looks like Israel is chilling peacefully. Okay. Oh, Iranian state TV releases footage of Iran's arsenal. Right, but that's all right. You can go ahead. This is old. I'm looking for the newest stuff. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens, and then with the other countries weighing in on this. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They also, Iran's also known. I'm sure you've heard this before. Like they're the greatest funders of terrorist organizations, namely Hezbollah, the Houthis of Yemen, and Hamas. They enable them by paying them and providing them weapons and training. They could have that October. Is it October 6th attacked in Israel? That attack was very likely, it could have been, they could have trained them for that attack, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. I see what you're saying. Oh man. Wow. Oh, the other piece too with this was what I was looking for, and I didn't find it yet, but I know I will. Like Senator Leader Hakeem Jeffries had made a statement about Trump not going about following proper protocol before launching these strikes towards Iran.
Right.
So I'm looking into some more info on that. Osario, one of the other minority leaders, as well, as she's saying impeach. So I'm like, I don't think you want to do that right now. So I don't know. There's a lot of hatred within this country that is making us more and more unstable. And that's what I don't like either, because it's like, regardless to what I do like and don't like of Trump, if anything at all, he's the leader of the country right now. And for
Right.
us to be so dismantled while we're in the midst of wars is I feel like it's leaving us more vulnerable for attacks too. So people, specifically Americans, need to be aware of that. I think try to be positive, and I know a lot's going on, but at the same time, we can't fight amongst each other so much that we're leaving each other vulnerable, because it's like you're turning your back towards your opposition in ways to where they can come in and attack you, even just here on land, because we're so busy. I just feel like fighting amongst each other so much that it's just it's getting kind of ridiculous. But I did want to find some of that in there too. I guess at some point I'll get to it.
Do you know who Hassan Abi is?
Hassan Abi.
Yeah, he's cousins, I think, or the nephew of Cenk Uygur, which Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. I'm sure you know Cenk Uygur at least, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I know a lot of faces. Even I've listened to them for years. I have to get better with the names. I got it.
No, that's fine. So on that program you were broadcasting earlier, it was called TYT, the Young Turks. It was showing Anna Kasparian, and I kind of like how Anna Kasparian's changed her politics recently. She's not as far left as she used to be.
Right. And she got a lot of pushback for that, and it was unwarranted.
Right. I mean, what you'll get from the very far left, it's like, what did she go through? She was like sexually assaulted, and because the person who assaulted her was homeless and like from a vulnerable class in society, they only see people by their class identity and not by like what you did and what you're guilty of. So she got pushback because she was part of that incident. So that's
I didn't know that. Wait, you said she was sexually assaulted?
Yes. So what happened was she got sexually assaulted by a homeless person, and she made it public. I don't think she said it. She didn't say anything controversial, but people like some people from the far left came out and said, well, you should be a little more understanding. This is a homeless guy and he's from a vulnerable class. Yeah, this is the cousin. So this is the guy that like supports actual terrorism. This guy actually supports the Houthis, of Yemen, and he interviewed one of the terrorists. I don't know how he still exists on the YouTube platform, why they haven't banned him, but I'm just talking about like different levels of politics. Like this guy, he appeals to like the teenagers. Most people aren't. Most people, as they grow older, become less radical, I think.
Yeah, we gotta get some sensibility going. Now that you do, you know what? I think I do remember. Okay, with Anna and then that whole situation. Right. What do I want to bring right now? Okay. Yeah, so this is the Hassan. Okay, Hassan. Okay.
This is Hassan Adi or Hassan Piker. But who do you watch?
I watch a little bit of everything when it comes to politics. Not everyone, but I do WION, WION, which is Indian network. Because I value their setup because they are very non-biased as much as they can be, and they're worldly. So I don't just listen to American networks. I have to listen to other countries as well because they have given me information that America was being too quiet about or wasn't
Right.
ready to openly speak on. So I think international network media too, it's helpful to tune into also. So that's one of them. Roland Martin. But I don't just listen to heavy Democrat because again, I feel like we're in such of a battle amongst each other that we kind of miss good talking points because I don't like being yelled at, called names, and things like that, regardless to if we do seem to be on the same side or not. There's too much of that. So I've been even more skeptical with who I do listen to, but I listen to a wide range of people. It's kind of hard for me to really just think
Yeah,
of one. Definitely that's a couple of
I
other
think
ones.
that's a good idea. When I notice someone who's only like watching, let's say like Candace Owens or like someone like they present the world in such a way to make you feel like the general public is just crazy and like everyone believes this crazy thing, and then you go out in the world and you see that no, like this is not how the world is. You've been lied to. So I do try to focus these days in terms of watching media. I like reports rather than opinion pieces, and I think I still every now and then watch a pundit, but I do like the actual journalistic news reports over the pundits these days.
Yeah. And you're seeing a lot more people coming on YouTube that have been fired from their jobs or, on media or wherever they come from. They're coming on here because they know that they can be more outspoken. And I do value people's outspokenness, but I have to watch opinion versus fact. And I would advise everyone else to do that too. Sometimes I give my opinion on here, but I mostly go off of fact. I'm mostly going off of just what's right here. And I try to use the most reliable, credible resources too that I can. Because like we have CNN. I don't watch much Fox, but Fox tends to have like a lot of the newest, latest breaking things. But they have been deeply rooted in racism in a lot of ways that I've seen over the years. So I cannot give them my time. So I have to go above and beyond sometimes to find information and find it quickly. So there's that too. I gotta watch the biasness, regardless of what type of bias, who it's against or whatever. I just need the information. And yeah, so that's pretty much how I do. And those
Yeah.
only people I show on here, sometimes Associated Press, different places. For unbiased wording. But sometimes it's all right to go ahead and throw in some people that are just one-sided, only what Republicans say and do or only what them say and do.
Right.
Just kind of being versatile with it. But it is very serious content, and a lot of times I work on more adding some humor in there, here and there, little memes and stuff. that I'm working on doing
Memes.
some more of that too. Yeah, because sometimes you just need like a little mental break. It is serious topics. It's about death, war. The things I talk about on here too can get serious, but I try to, remember to incorporate some humor because it is good medicine. People just like to laugh. Even if you crack a little smile, it de-stresses you at least a little bit because, a lot's going on right now. So, you know.
Right. I'm looking at your channel. This is the first time I've seen your channel. I'm taking a look at some of the videos. Okay. So it's
Yeah,
interesting. I
this
see you're
channel isn't
doing.
even political, just recently, but I mostly talk about anti-racism content here. Mostly do with the community, melanated people. Also
Right.
spirituality, our energies, and astronomy, and somewhat of astrology I like to talk about on here too. Just making
Astronomy and
connections.
astrology and anti-racism. Okay.
Yeah.
I see a lot of courtroom stuff on the
Yeah.
channel. Okay.
Mostly community I would say like inter-community type of the trials that I have shown on here. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. I
Did you
do
see?
believe things that go on in space do have to do with us. And the more we ignore it, that's why we're getting what we're getting. And I will be talking more about the aircrafts too. I talk about some of my theories on why I think they're crashing and things are happening, and it has to do with astronomy to me. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think I know what you mean. I understand. Like in astrology, there's this belief that things that go on in space have an influence on Earth. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed Charlemagne in one of your videos, or maybe I've mistaken him for some. Is that Charlemagne?
Yeah. Did I do it? You saying I did a something on Charlemagne?
I just see a video with Charlemagne in the thumbnail, and I was gonna ask, did you watch his interview 6 days ago with Matan Evan?
No, I haven't
Okay.
seen actually anything from him in a while. I haven't even been really over there like that.
Okay. All right.
Who did he interview?
Well, actually, this is like Charlemagne got interviewed by someone else.
Oh.
It
Oh,
was a
okay.
reverse. It was a reverse, but it was by a guy named Matan Evan. He's like a little. He's like I guess he has a little show he does on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll check that out. Yeah, I like Charlemagne. Charlemagne's pretty good. Pretty good. He's come a long way. So, yeah, people have been interested in his views lately more and more, I guess, in recent years. Yeah.
What's your have you gotten any like people talking like do you talk to people from other countries as well? Do you go travel?
No, not like that. No.
Okay.
No. That would be interesting. No. Nope. The farthest I would say would be YouTube reaching people from other areas and countries. I see them come in the chat room more and more, especially with worldly news like this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm a smaller channel growing, and people are a lot of times reluctant to speak on things, so sometimes it's not always easy. But people like to, type, yell in other ways. So it's just like, okay, well, sometimes I will try to use my platform to reach people, basically, and get them to, communicate more and stuff. And we can just, exchange ideas. Because that's basically what my channel is about. And I put that in my about section, is just looking at different things and connecting the dots. And sometimes it seems far-fetched. Like, what does space have to do with this? You spaced out. People think that way. It's like, that's fine. But when I come on here in different ways, I work to prove what I'm saying. So that's an ongoing thing for me too. But I know that there's things that I'm feeling and sensing and, receiving messages. So, if it's telling me to share them, I'm going to do it, you know. But along with that, I just try to do my best to show where I'm getting this information, you know, like, why am I saying what I'm saying, you know, and just bring it to the table, you know.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Hey, Conscious Moron. See you over there in the chat. Oh, it seemed like I just lost signal or something. Hey, Conscious Moron. I see you over there. Now we can be heard. Peace, peace. Yeah, there's a few people that come through that I do know or know from other channels that were pretty political too. So,
Right.
RBR Network is no longer with us. But yeah, because my channel is really not even political. For years I've always just stayed away from it and just stayed quiet. And but some things it's like you got to speak on, even if it's a little bit. And I said, well, it's still a way for me to see other people's views on my channel, not on someone else's. You know what I mean? So that's always going to be different for me and what I look to bring here. So it's just like, hey, do the most I could do here with this platform over here. May as well.
Yeah. Emily Carper, I don't know how long ago this was, says, "Did I just call the teenagers radical?" And yeah, I'd say like if you're gonna get into like if you're gonna be a full-on communist in America, you're probably like a teenager. And I'm not saying there's not older there's no older communists, but it does usually turn into like it usually just turns out to be a phase when kids get into communism. They'll just moderate their beliefs when they grow older.
There are some people. I mean, honestly, for me, most of my views have been the same since I was a teenager. I have the same views, which is part of why I'm glad Trump is doing what he's doing as far as immigration. I've been the same way for many years. It's just I'm finally seeing someone do what I've been wanting to see for decades, which is
I
strange.
thought you were anti-Trump.
No, I never said that. And I never say I'm like, oh my gosh, oh, you're our savior. I'm so glad. No, it's really hard for me too, because his administration does show, they show racist ways. So it would be foolish for a person of color to be totally in with people that, are against you in different ways because of the color of your skin in different ways and work in a system of power against you. So saying that, that's why, I work with it how I can. But regardless, whoever's in leadership, I don't want to be stabbing at them too much. They're still in leadership over governing a land that I reside in. So I don't want to be too broken up about that either. But I do have to say, though, like you said, too, or was it you or the previous guy? Sorry. But the first time with Trump, I felt it was horrible. The second time around with Trump, I feel it was overdue. It was necessary. So a lot of what he does, I agree with. I do agree with it, and it's just been past time. With the Democrats, I started to feel like they want you to feel like they're so warm and welcoming, and it's about the people. And oh my gosh, we got to help people. Don't you want to help people? If not, you don't have a heart. You're evil.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either Democrat or you don't have a heart. You're evil. Are you black? Then you're automatically a Democrat or something's wrong with you. Are you this and that? And it's like, wait a minute, stop speaking for me when you don't even speak to me.
Right.
They do not speak to my needs. They do not speak to a lot of my wants. And they do not do boots to the ground like I've seen other people do. So I've just had it with a lot of just political parties in general. But as far as agendas, I do agree more with the Republican Party. I just do. And I have for some time now. So it's just.
Is immigration your main issue, or do you have, what other issues are you voting on? Are you just making that determination?
Anti-abortion.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, that would be my main issue. I wish you'd go farther on abortion.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then it's like being a female and a female of color, like people look at you like you're an alien that just fell from space. when I talk about my foreign affair beliefs and my morals. So it's just like I'd rather just be quiet a lot of the time. So I do understand why people don't be wanting to speak up because you feel so attacked and you just feel like they make you feel like you're in the wrong category because of who you are. And it's like, no, I still entitled to my belief, my views on things. Like, it's just I don't know. And I feel like there's so much that back on what I'm saying. It's like, how could you disagree? But people do. So I just feel like, okay, well, you know what?
All you have to do is look at the immigration disaster in Canada, which is I'm in Canada.
Okay.
I was born in Iran. I immigrated to Canada when I was 3. And I guess as an immigrant, it's weird for me saying this, but what I would ask for is like to have tighter requirements on immigration. It seems like we're allowing too many people in. And I've spoken to the people who like recently arrived in this country and are filling out their application to seek asylum in Canada, and most of them are just admitting to me that their application is false. They're trying to get rid of someone was trying to get rid of asked me for help on trying to get rid of a picture on Facebook so that it's consistent with his application, because he took a picture of himself in a country he wasn't supposed to be in. But there's just so many flooding in Canada. You wouldn't imagine. Like I can tell you what's happening here in Canada as a result. Some cities, like there's a Walmart that is managed by an Indian, and they don't hire anyone but Indians because they speak Hindi with one another. You know what I mean? But this is a Walmart. It should not. You know what I mean? This isn't like a small family business of Indians. So
Right.
if you get enough people, I mean, there's going to be what you call in-group preference amongst immigrants, and if they start taking over in larger and larger numbers, they're going to have an effect on your society in ways that you didn't expect.
Yeah, and it's going on in America. When you go to a lot of local Walmarts, there's people that do not speak English. They're on the floors, working the floors rather, and things like that. So much to the point where I don't ask for help. I could need help in Walmart. I barely ask. Why? Because it pisses me off that you can't even speak my language. How am I going to ask for help when they don't even speak English? And they're mostly Indian and then some Hispanic. It seemed like it was more Hispanic before, but now it's, I would say, yeah, roughly more Indian background are coming in. And it's just unbelievable to me to be in a country that you don't speak the language, but yet you're on a payroll and you work there. It makes no sense to me. And that's another immigration issue. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like,
Right.
oh my gosh, we can't, you care with your heart, but you got to think with your minds. And I think that people are either being led with their feelings or they're being led with their facts these days. And we're going to just see more and more of um, these people, and they're going to just expose themselves. That they're going to have to. They're just going to have to. Joy Reid joined YouTube. I know she was fired maybe a couple of months back.
Who got fired?
Joy Reid. She's the black woman. There's only like there might be a few black women on CNN now, but no, MS. Oh shoot, which one was she on? Well, anyway, she's on YouTube now, like a lot of people are. I have to check her out too. People that I think what media is going on in America is if you're a little too outspoken about things and you seem to only focus on some things, they're going to drop you. Speak your opinion sometimes, but you have to watch how you do it and just be strategic about it. And I think that some of our media people are kind of losing that respect. So she's on here now, just like Don Lemon, Donna. And what some people are doing though is they're getting popularity on YouTube by being messy. They think that you just want entertainment that's messy, no message. So I know what I'm doing and working towards with my channel is adding some more entertainment to it, but let's remove the mess so we know what the heck is really going on. So it's just kind of tough because with Iran and Israel, we've been lied to about different things. So sometimes when you get the truth, you don't know. You got to keep looking to know if it's the truth or not. So I feel like we've grown into being confused individuals too. But we are speaking out more and have more of these platforms. So that's always good to have too. At least we do have this. Yeah.
I see what you're
Who
saying.
else is speaking today? I've been checking with the White House, roll calls.
I
To see
think
if anyone else is speaking soon.
it's in general, making decisions in your life to make yourself more I know this, yeah, this is going to be related. More independent is better. So for example, if you work for a company, but your speech is so highly regulated, that if you come out and say something, you're going to be fired. I just don't think in life that's a good position to be in, no matter how large your paycheck is. Better to find a way to make money more independently.
Right. Yep.
So that's why I switched from working at a large corporate bank to owning my own business as a result of a type of drama that happened in the corporate environment. So I've kind of made that decision for myself, and I recommend everyone else do it.
Yeah, that's great advice. That sounds like Richard Fain. Richard Fain is a man that's on here. He used to be into banking. And then he said he sat back and was looking at how people make their money, how banks look at people and how they move their money and what it's about. And then he just started being his own entrepreneur for himself. Well, really an investor. So real estate is always a great investment. Aside from stocks, things like that. But he used to be a banker, and now he said he's just living it up with the money and everything from information that he obtained.
How do you spell his last name?
Fain.
Okay. Richard Fain.
Yeah, he claims he's not a financial advisor, but he is. I guess people want to watch their wording so they don't get sued. But he does stock and things like that, which he's into. He's like a lot of us too, not really into politics, but politics does tend to affect the content. So he adds that in as well, because a lot of things that go on in the US under Trump advisement does affect the stocks at times heavily. So, of course, with Tesla and Elon Musk and all that, just a lot of different things with that. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I see his website here. I feel like I've seen his face before, but
he used to work in he used to be in the NFL also, from what I remember.
That's what I saw. I didn't want to say something because I thought maybe this is like a different person, and I didn't want to.
Yeah, I would have mentioned that first, but I didn't know him from NFL. But I just like financial advice here and there and things like that. I always feel like that's useful, and always try to have an extra stream of income if you can. And sometimes you take risks with your finances. It's like a gamble, but you can either gamble or take some financial investment risks, which are a wise thing to do. Anything new on here? Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, I was just checking the White House site for some updates. Yeah, I wanted to see the executive order. Okay, nothing new there. All right, that's fine. All right, we'll see y'all in the chat. Okay, yep. Someone mentioned totalitarian. Yeah, I think deep down a lot of us have totalitarian views, or maybe I'm throwing y'all in with me.
What are some totalitarian views you have?
I probably shouldn't say that's a strong word. So, or communist is a strong word. I can't say I have those views, but it's like, I don't know. That's how they say Trump is, but I agree with the way we're making a lot of the moves we make. Russia, having a good relationship with Russia, not a bad one, but you get people that are upset with that. They don't want nothing to do with Russia. We have to have something to do with Russia. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, but that's all about strict, they feel like, okay, then you like communist ways. You just want total, and I want better relationships, like we had with North Korea, which Trump was able to pull off. Other people aren't. So I may not say I'm all about Kim Jong-un, but what I'm saying is we all got to be at a table and do it peacefully. I guess that's the best way. I can't look at someone and say, I'm shutting you out because of your ways. No, I can't do that. And if we're really a United Nations, why don't we act more like it instead of pretending just because it's a title that's used for the organization? So I don't know. There's just stuff like that too. That's just, but that probably be for another time. I may be able to be a little more specific. Yeah.
I'll just give you my 2 cents on the Kim Jong-un thing. Is I feel like Kim Jong-un at that time was going through this thing where, in order to give himself leverage in negotiations, he'll go through this crazy phase where he'll talk a lot and do a whole bunch of nuclear testings, and then suddenly become the nice guy, and that gives him leverage to say, "Oh, if you want to keep me happy," you know what I mean? He'll go through those 2 phases. It's just, I think it was a manipulation thing. So yeah, I did see the video of Trump shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. I mean, perhaps it was helpful. I don't know, but I don't know. It could have also been just a tactic for negotiations. Yeah, I think Kim Jong-un probably wanted something from Donald Trump. The U.S. obviously wants them to stop with their nuclear experiments, and then Kim Jong-un, I don't know, are they looking for trade? Probably not trade, probably something else. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember that part either. But it still was like Trump still commanded respect. He was still like, all right, what's he calling him, little rocket boy, hold it down now. Let me tell you something. You don't want it with the U.S. Let me tell you something. So, I don't know. I think people just really, really enjoy Trump's strength, regardless to some of your specifics. Everyone wants to feel protected. We don't want to feel we have a weak government, and our government has been weakened because they want everything to be heartfelt so much that we open the floodgates on so much illegal immigration that it's disgusting. And it's disgusting how they're treating ICE and others as they come in and say, hey, we got to regulate this. They get spit on. They have all this stuff, which I'm going to show during the week as we go into this week coming in, just showing all the violence that's been going on from their part. I'm not saying they're the most violent people either, because they're ticked off now. So maybe that triggered the violence. But regardless, this country has to gain more control within itself. And somebody has to do it. Somebody had to do it. And we have to remember Trump got voted in. Trump didn't come rolling in. He didn't sneak and snatch it like some countries do that people are against. He won. He's here. He's doing what was voted for him to do. So it's surprising to me that he's getting pushback even from Republicans, even from people that have quietly voted him in. So you just can't make Americans happy sometimes. It's just difficult. I don't know what it's going to take. So I just sit back, watch and listen and try to understand,
Right. I mean, this more recent scare of sleeper cells. Do you know what a sleeper cell is? You heard about that?
God, I haven't heard that in a while.
A sleeper cell is basically a spy, but like if I was to send you, if a spy was to arrive in the U.S., but a sleeper cell basically means don't do anything. You don't really need to do anything. Just live your normal life until, some major event happens where the country, let's say in this case, Iran, will activate its sleeper cells in the U.S. So all these the spies who were just living a regular life now create some sort of terror threat against the U.S. or take some sort of action. So there's some concern about that too. At this time, it's like a heightened state of. And just to relate this to what you were saying about ICE is like increasing, lowering immigration or increasing the constraints on immigration will actually reduce the number of potential sleeper cells and spies in general in the U.S.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, News Nation looks like they just reported on it a couple of days ago. White House monitoring possible Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S. just a couple of days ago too. Yeah, see, okay.
Isn't that interesting? Like you think everyone around, well, not to say like I think they're rare enough to where you probably haven't spoken to a spy or anything, but like this idea that there's actual spies living amongst Americans, isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you think about every day.
Yikes. Yes, definitely. Oh, now they're saying, wait, what? Okay. The U.S. embraces for possible Iran retaliation. Okay. We heard from Iran a little while ago too. I'm going to show some of this. Tied into what you were just talking about.
Wait, are you when you play this? I can't hear it. Are you playing this?
Oh, you can't hear it.
Oh wait, I gotta watch the stream then.
That's interesting.
Can your stream hear this?
No, too, because I have to learn this system a little more too. Okay. Okay, they're saying that they were trying to really push for a meeting with Iran before the U.S. actually attacked.
Before they what?
Before they attacked Iran. Right now, they're saying we're going to have more police presence throughout the American states for possible retaliation efforts in favor of Iran.
Yeah, that's the Ayatollah.
Wow, I have to fix it. Apparently, no one can hear it. I just tested it out.
Yeah, I noticed too. I opened the stream up, so it wasn't
nobody
open.
said a word.
In the tenor from the president shift.
Oh, I can hear it now.
He traveled to the G7 summit. He abruptly left the summit, coming back here to the White House, meeting with his national security team in the Situation Room. And then over the course of the last several days, we heard from sources that the president was really warming up to this idea that the U.S. might in fact strike. The president set that 2-week deadline, saying he's giving Iran 2 weeks max to come to the table and have some sense brought into them, as he said. And that ultimately apparently did not happen, because 2 days into that 2-week time frame, the president moving forward with these strikes. So it has been a notable shift in tone from the president, who initially was keeping this sort of at an arm's length distance, was hoping for diplomacy, and then ultimately moving forward with those strikes, Janae.
Yeah, said he would make a decision within 2 weeks. It ended up being 2 days. And now on the other side of those strikes, Rachel, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he's slamming President Trump for not seeking congressional authorization for this mission. But we're also seeing some of the president's supporters expressing concern about entering into another conflict in the Middle East. Tell us what you're hearing.
Yeah, these are strong words from the Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic Minority Leader, saying that the president misled the country, saying that the U.S. is now at risk of possibly an intense war on its hand, and that the Trump administration is going to have to explain this to the American people. I will tell you that in the lead up to this, Republicans on Capitol Hill were very divided, so much so that I was told that you had Republicans on both sides of this, ones that were in favor of the president moving forward with these strikes, ones that were against it, calling the president personally, trying to get him on their side of this. We are seeing Republican leaders rally behind the president. But one notable thing that we did report this morning, as we were on the air with you, Janae, this morning for Good Morning America, is this idea that the Democratic leaders were given a notification, but not much detail. You compare that to the Republican leaders, the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader. They were briefed, we were told, ahead of these strikes in Iran. Janae?
We know there was so much secrecy surrounding this mission, and as you were reporting, even to the extent of some congressional leaders. Rachel, thank you so much. We appreciate you. For more now, I want to bring in ABC's Marcus Moore, who is live in Tel Aviv. And Marcus, tell us, what is the latest on the Iranian barrage of missiles into Israel, because that is continuing even after these U.S. airstrikes.
That's right, Janae, and it was an intense airstrike. Iran firing more than 20 missiles at Israel this morning, and most of those missiles were intercepted, but several did manage to get through Israel's air defense systems and hit several locations in and around the country, both in the central part of Israel and also in northern Israel. No fatalities were reported, but there were more than 20 people said to have been injured in the strike this morning, and also some significant damage to a residential building on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. No sirens throughout the day today, which has been quite rare, but Israel carrying out several rounds of airstrikes across Iran. Janae, they have been focusing primarily today on Iran's missile launchers, which we had heard earlier in the week that they had managed to knock out 50% of those launchers during some of their strikes.
And Marcus, what more can you tell us about Israel's reaction to the U.S. strike? Because while they are taking, some of those trading back and forth strikes from Iran at this point, this is something that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wanted. He wanted the U.S. to get involved, and we heard from President Trump that he and Netanyahu had been in touch throughout all of this. What's their response?
Well, the response simply has been one of gratitude, really, from Israeli officials, all the way from the Prime Minister Netanyahu down to former officials like Yoav Gallant, who was the former defense minister, who on Twitter today, or on X, said that the world is a safer place now because of this strike. But I can tell you that in speaking with some of the civilians here, just everyday people who are not government officials, there is some concern. I spoke to one resident who lives in the Ramat Gan neighborhood, which is Ramat Gan city, which neighbors Tel Aviv to the north and east. We were at an apartment building that was destroyed. And when we were talking to him about that day, he looked around at the devastation, and he said that, the army is supposed to make you feel secure. But after those rockets were falling here in Tel Aviv, he said we feel less secure. And that is one emotion that some people are experiencing in light of this attack.
A reminder of the perspective for some of the civilians caught up in this. Marcus Moore, thank you so much. And still coming up here on ABC News Live Weekend, Republicans praising President Trump's move to strike Iran, while some Democrats accuse him of misleading the country. I'll speak with Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton for more reaction right after.
Wow, yeah, so it's very divided. They even said the Republicans are almost at a 50-50 on this Iranian attack.
I mean, Republicans are turning more and more into like anti-war, especially after Iraq and Afghanistan. I do think that I don't know. I'm probably biased because I'm Iranian, and I want a regime change. Whereas if we were talking about like Ukraine, I wouldn't really care that much.
You lived most of your life in Iran, then moved to Canada. Is that
No,
right?
I lived most of my life in Canada because I came to Canada when I was only 3. I was a very small child, so. But yeah, I'm one of the guys that wants a regime change in Iran, and it's a bit exciting because if there is a regime change, I'm definitely going back there.
Oh, all right, I get it. Yeah.
I want to visit Iran and see how it feels under a new government. You know, hopefully, well, presumably a free country, a free government.
Wow. Well, there we have it. Wow. Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, someone in chat, you can't wage war, yeah, without congressional approval. They have to be meeting. Maybe they're meeting privately right now. Then they'll let us in. Oh my.
So the question is, does Trump have the authority to order a U.S. strike without congressional approval?
No. But he did. I'm gonna take a look at somewhere where there's more evidence with let me see what congressional approval on spell correctly. While I'm doing that though, I was trying to find this other thing. I didn't find it yet.
Thank you so much, Congressman, for being with us. We've heard that lawmakers found out at different times about these airstrikes. When did you first learn what happened? And tell us what your initial reaction was.
I know that the administration informed the top leadership of the House and the Senate, not rank and file members like myself, in advance of these strikes. So members of Congress, the vast majority of us, found out about the strikes from news media reports like everyone else in America.
And so what was your reaction to those reports?
Well, obviously, in the days leading up to this, it's not a great surprise that the president made this decision. And first, the first point we need to make is I think there's bipartisan agreement, Republicans and Democrats. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's been the policies of Democratic and Republican administrations for decades. No one can disagree with that. And obviously, we're so thankful for those U.S. service women and men who pulled off this amazing achievement of bombing these nuclear sites in Iran. And thank goodness there's no reports of any injuries or deaths of American service members. So we're thankful for that. But we have a lot of questions because the president, who was in the middle of negotiations with Iran just a few weeks ago, changed course and decided to bomb these sites without informing the American people, certainly without informing Congress as to why, certainly not seeking congressional support and approval in advance of making decisions. We have a lot of questions as to what exactly the evidence was, why they needed to move at this exact moment, how they're going to keep American troops safe in this region. There are 40,000 American troops in that region. And what's the long-term plan? How are we going to stop this from escalating into a much larger war? We do not want another larger war in this region, as we saw with Iraq and Afghanistan. So the president and his administration has a lot of explaining to do to the American people.
And many of those questions, as you said, many Americans have as well. What kind of discussions were happening in the House leading up to these strikes? Because as you said, there were days leading up to the idea that something could be coming, could be happening.
Well, in the short run, there was bipartisan support that the United States needed to stand up for the defense of Israel, our ally. As you know, Israel was receiving incoming missiles from Iran. Israel had made the decision that they were going to attack some of these sites and go after the military top command of Iran. And the United States and Israel are allies, and the United States needs to defend Israel against these ongoing attacks. Obviously, the United States had ongoing discussions and negotiations with Iran about whether or not we could do a deal with Iran. And so the president obviously changed course in the middle of that. That's a major decision to change course in the middle of that. And we don't know exactly what went into that decision. I wish the president had presented his case to the American people to build up American support for such a dramatic escalation, and certainly come to Congress and sought our support in advance. I think we'd have a much stronger bipartisan support for what occurred. Instead, right now, we have a lot of questions.
A lot of questions, and as you point out, these airstrikes were carried out without congressional approval. So what sort of role will the House play now?
Well, it depends on what happens next. Certainly, regardless, no matter what happens, the president owes it to the American people to explain exactly why we took this dramatic escalation. But now the great threat is Iran is going to attack U.S. interests in this region. What are we going to do to keep our American service members who are serving in this region as safe as possible? By the way, the attacks coming out to the United States may not just be military. It could be cyber attacks.
Serving in what region?
Or other types of irregular warfare. We have to be prepared for that as well. And if they do those types of attacks, are we now entering into a much larger war with Iran, a much longer war with Iran? The president owes the American people explanations about how we are preparing for that, how we are planning for that. Because again, the American people really do not want any boots on the ground in this region. We have learned the hard way over the years. When President Bush said mission accomplished so quickly after the beginning of the Iraq War, that turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes in foreign policy history. We don't want that to occur again. And that's why the president needs to present this evidence and plan to the American people and to the American Congress.
And Congressman, real quick, you have laid out so many of the questions that still remain, as well as the ongoing concerns in the aftermath of this airstrike. What is your top concern?
Well, immediately, it's the safety of the service women and men serving in the Middle East. We have 40,000 service members in this region. We've moved equipment and personnel to this region after Israel began its bombing campaign in Iran, so we can provide a stronger defense to Israel for the counterattack from Iran. Those people are at risk, and we owe it to them to provide them as much safety and have a plan for their safety, because we do not want any American service members hurt or killed as a result of this. And then we owe it to the American people to explain what will be our reaction to that. Are we entering the significant possibility, maybe probability, of a larger war with Iran? That's why we have these questions. But my immediate concern is the safety and security for U.S. service members in that region.
Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton, we appreciate you being with us this morning.
Well, okay, I see what he's saying. He's saying if the U.S. retaliates, he'll attack the military based in Iraq and in surrounding countries as a retaliatory attack, which is similar to what they did when Soleimani. Do you remember when Soleimani was killed?
I don't think so.
Yeah, during Trump's first term, Soleimani was a Iranian military commander, and he was killed. And actually, Iran did retaliate, but did not end up killing. It seemed like they planned a retaliation that did not include the death of any American soldiers or any Americans at all, on purpose, just to make sure it gets de-escalated. But yeah, I can imagine what he's saying is true. Those soldiers are probably those military personnel are probably a little more at risk at this time over peacetime. Yeah.
We do have eyes on Iran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tehran, Iran. We got Jerusalem. Oh, we got a bunch of. Okay, go ahead with the Earth cams.
That's Earth Cams? That's a website?
No, but they do have Earth Cam, but I couldn't get it there.
I see.
Who was this? Not have so many tabs open because I'm trying to show like articles and I showed the actual bomb, so I have all these tabs open. Where are we here? Live Iran though. So I thought they're saying it's unconstitutional not to get the congressional approval, as Trump did not do, and he went ahead and struck. But I'm going to go ahead and show here the Constitution, Congress.gov, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 does state that the executive branch does have authority to do what he did. Someone in the chat said he's the president. He can do that if he wants to. There's a lot of power presidents don't have, though, and you'd be surprised. So usually they say, oh, you can't, do this without, like the Democrats and some are saying. But it says here the legislative and executive branches have deferred an interpretation of the respective powers to initiate military action from 1973 War Powers Resolution permits the president to introduce troops into hostilities, situations, et cetera, only after Congress has declared war, specifically authorized the president to use force. But here, the Constitution system will not hurry into U.S. war calculated. Some statements and practices U.S. government suggest. The executive branch contends that it is not legally bound by Congress's interpretation of the Declaration of War Clause. So the president does possess a much broader constitutional authority than the congressional view would permit. Will they just tell us though one way or the other? Because it's almost a contradicting passage right here. This is it's like it's saying, yeah, you do need to get congressional, approval, but then it's saying, well, presidents do have a right to say, hey, that's your interpretation. I'm declaring war, or I'm going to go ahead and strike. This is
I think you're reading the law itself, right?
Yeah, but you see how
be,
it's contradictory, maybe because I'm going a little fast with it, trying to just get it out.
If this is the law, it's like I prefer to read whatever, I don't know, a lawyer says. A constitutional lawyer will probably just give you a clearer answer, whereas reading the law itself can sometimes be confusing. You might want to ask like ChatGPT a direct question, but I imagine this is me just guessing here, is that the title for the president is also the commander-in-chief of the military, and in war situations you need fast responses to questions. So, for example, when Obama took out Osama,
right?
He didn't have to get congressional approval. In fact, when the military called him, it would have taken him too long. They would have lost their chance at killing Osama. Besides, if you ask for congressional approval, doesn't that mean that it goes to it becomes public? Now the Iranian government is ready.
I would hope not, but that's how the U.S. has been moving, which I never agreed with that either. We would discuss our strategic attacks publicly and then go prosecute them. That was the most ridiculous way of war. That's why Trump said from the beginning that's not how he's going to do it. He said that during his first term.
Trump had accused Hillary of that. I don't of doing that on her website, but I don't know if that's true. But he did accuse her of doing that, like of laying out a plan on how to take over with ISIS, or excuse me, to defeat ISIS.
Congressional.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like those bombers that they used were stealth bombers, so the whole idea was that you're not supposed to get noticed, right? So if you were to get congressional approval, which this is why it interests me. It's like in that whole news report, no one mentioned the fact that if Congress was informed, this would just get leaked, or would have a higher chance of getting leaked to the public. I mean, isn't Congress a public forum? Like it gets filmed, right? It's not like you can meet privately in Congress.
Yeah, you would think there would be a way to do this privately. I don't know. I'm going to look into that as well. Yeah, it looks like he did it the way he felt it was necessary to be done. Yeah, this is kind of tough. My goodness. Whew. Well, I've been on here a few hours. That's the longest stream I've probably ever
Yeah.
done. That might not be
Well,
true, but definitely in years. Ooh. Yeah.
have you just been talking to a lot of? Am I the second guy you talked to, or?
Yeah. Yeah. Just yeah. The second one.
Okay.
Yeah. With the politics, I tend to do pretty good just showing the footage, and sometimes I'll come in and give some commentary. I'm pretty much always in the chats. I got to monitor it, and then I'll just kind of chime in because I don't want it to be like other channels that just show whatever, and you get your numbers. You don't even have to really do much, which is weird. But maybe one day YouTube will crack down on that. But I always want to be interactive in some kind of way to where I'm never just using content and I'm not giving something. You know what I'm saying? So this is an interactive channel. It has to be, otherwise you could have a channel run by bots, and we have those already run by whoever, and people just watching and reckless in the chat room and just whatever. So yeah, my throat is dry too. I'm about to get something to drink. I won't be talking too much longer.
All right.
Ooh, my throat dry.
I've been making you talk too much today.
No, this was good though. This is a lot of what I've been looking for. So, you've helped provide that, and I appreciate it. Hearing people's voices. You were born Iranian, then became a Canadian, eating Canadian bacon.
Yeah, I'm
Canadian,
pretty
got
much
some good insight. So
yeah, I pretty much grew up like most of my life here, but I'd like to go back and visit my family too. But yeah, it was really nice talking to you, and perhaps this be a good time for me to drop off as well.
All righty. Yeah, I appreciate your input and coming up and sharing it with the rest of us. Appreciate
Take
it.
care, friend. All right, sounds good. Take care.
All right, take care. Peace. All right. So we just had someone chime in. I should have got his name again. Spoke on the Iranian war. So we know that the U.S. has struck Iran late yesterday, and I showed Trump speaking shortly after that on my live stream. And I did this one. So we started off with the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Hagseth, speaking and doing some Q&A, and then we heard live late breaking. We heard from the Iranian regime over there and some others. So right now we're just looking at some reactions since the bombing, and I'll probably close on out. So I appreciate that. And then from time to time, I will do that like I've done today. I put the phone number in there so that you can call in if you'd like, or the link is there so that either way you'll be able to reach out and just share your thoughts. Whether we agree on views or not. I kind of hold in some of my views too. I just want to just elaborate and show some non-biased footage. Some footage will be biased, but I want to show all different biases so that, it just adds context to the content that I have here on my channel. I mostly talk about things to do with the inner community on here, and things to do with spirituality, your energy. So even if you're not religious, this is for you. What I talk about is us. So that's something diverse for everyone. But also things to do with astronomy. I'm big on that. Things that are going on in space and how it affects us down here, the little human people, aliens and humans. So we got that. And things to do with sexuality, because it is underrated, but our sexuality does have a big role in our life and the way we live our lives. Whether we have intimacy in our life or not, it does affect our life. So I do like talking on some things to do with that too. I usually come on Saturdays and Sundays. Sometimes I'll pop up if it's something big maybe going on, like a good case or something that we can get into during the week. I do have a case that I will be covering. It has to do with Florida. There was a teen that was found shot to death. Two grown men. One of them was sexually active with her and whatnot, and something occurred, and one of them or both of them had to do with her murder. But there's so many twists and turns to it that it's a very interesting case, and I want to join in this week with y'all doing some of that. So hope to see y'all back. I'm Kiy NY7. And I appreciate you. I appreciate the people that called in too. Y'all can always, chime in on things. And a lot is going on too. So I also don't mind, if something else is on your mind and you just may feel better letting it out. This can be the space for that. This is a space that I would say is as safe as we make it. You know what I'm saying? I can't speak for everyone else. So glad to have y'all here and appreciate it. What about China? Oh, someone just talking about China. Yeah, I just showed China weighed in, Iran, and there was a couple other places too. And they didn't really make the head news yet, I noticed, but I definitely showed it here as soon as I saw it. So that we could see what the other countries are weighing in on since the Iranian attacks. So that was pretty good. All right, so I'll close out with a little more footage. I'm probably going to show some of Trump's savage moments and maybe some others just to kind of lighten the mood, add a little humor to this. There's a lot is going on, and humor is medicine no matter what's going on. So I always add that here. Sometimes it's going to be serious content. You're going to probably be like, why is she making jokes of this? It's just to kind of help ease through things. I deal with a lot of serious content, and I love to laugh still, and I have to, and it helps keep my sanity. I don't know about y'all. I thank y'all for coming out. Hope everyone feels good and feels heard. And also I have information in my about section too. Just explaining my channel, what I'm about here. And there's an email there for serious inquiries. Like if you have maybe a position on something or something that maybe you'd like to see covered on here or covered again, or, just questions, comments, so inquiries can be given there. But I appreciate y'all. This is Kiy NY7, and thanks y'all. Peace.
So what we have to deal with on this is more of a see something, say something. If somebody sees, a person acting oddly, starts thinking that person may be somebody who could commit an act of terrorism, go to the police, let them know what's happening.
And we already know that in many major cities, like here in New York and Washington, D.C. as well, that law enforcement, police will be sort of posturing, taking those extra preventative measures. What kind of steps could we see law enforcement take to try to prevent those different modes of possible retaliation?
Well, right now you're seeing law enforcement, definitely in the New York area, and I believe across the country, starting to protect Israeli consulates, Israeli embassies, but also other locations that may be associated with either Israeli or Jewish persons.
And thanks for answering the poll too. I forgot I just put that in there. I asked, is it unconstitutional what Trump did by going ahead and attacking Iran? I'm going to look into that some more too, because there are certain rights, of course, that presidents do have. But there is also protocol in everything we do too. So I'll be looking into that. It looks like everyone right now, from what I see in the poll, is saying that no. Okay, someone said yes. Okay. So the question is it unconstitutional for Trump to attack Iran without congressional approval? 10% said yes, 90% said no. All right. So we'll still be looking into that, because I'm honestly not as familiar, because sometimes like, yeah, he got the right to do that. And it's like, wait, no, we don't. We got to look at the facts. So I was pulled up the law of the Constitution shortly ago. So what I'm going to do is just show some video footage before we close on out. And then anything anyone else to say, I'll be looking in there. Okay. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate your feedback. All right. Peace.
Distinguished Minister, are the doors for negotiation still open? Can you hear me now? Distinguished Minister, the question is as follows. Is the door for negotiations still open?
Interpreter, please speak.
Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, sir? In the English channel, can you hear me?
Translate real quick for my colleague. He's asking if there are still room for negotiations moving forward.
No. It's all right now. You can His translate is okay.
Türkçe mi? Sayın Bakan Ahmet Gannam yine televizyon Arabi. Müzakerelere hala kapı açık mı görüyorsunuz? Tahran'la
Is the negotiation door still open? Did you contact Tehran? What kind of damage has been incurred on the nuclear facilities? Is there any intermediary country like Turkey, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar? Are you continuing your such activities of mediation? How do you see the process? Thank you.
Been in touch with Tehran, of course. I still do not have exact information about the level of damages, but I don't think it matters how much damages have been made. Attacking a nuclear facility by itself is an unforgivable violation of international law and should be condemned. Yesterday, as I said, I had discussion and talks with a number of foreign ministers of the region. Almost all of them are very much concerned and interested to play a role to end this aggression.
Because the press are liars, they're terrible people. But here's an idea. So Mexico is sending lots of people, and by the way, they're coming from all over the world, including the Middle East. Why not? Come on in. We're stupid, we'll take care of you, we'll pay. You get sick, we'll take care of your hospitalization. What kind of a plan do you want? Oh, Don, you're a little controversial. You're talking about illegal immigration. I said it's illegal.
That there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead. The premiums are going through the roof. The deductibles, frankly, you have to get hit with a Komatsu tractor in order to use them. They're so high. We just spent $1 million building a soccer field, okay? A soccer field for our prisoners that happen to be in Guantanamo, okay? I don't like that. What do you need $1 million for? Level out the surface, let them play. The Iranians are great negotiators. The Persians are great negotiators. And we have people that are babies. It's like a chess player, grandmaster, playing against a checkers child. No, that's what it is. We give them, think of it, a nuclear scientist, and they won't give us our hostages back. It's so insane. President Obama, Secretary Kerry, I highly think you should read this book quickly. Quickly! We have very stupid people in our country negotiating for us, and we have leaders that don't know what they're doing. You know, Jeb Bush, one of my opponents, I noticed he's not doing very well in the polls. I've actually noticed. And by the way, they said I won the debate. Is that nice? Is that nice? Right? The polls came out and said I won. And the media, look at all those people back there. Scavengers. They're like scavengers. They'll probably say the crowds were about equal. Oh, they were equal. But that's the way they are, very dishonest. CNN is terrible. CNN, you're with CNN? Are you with CNN? Good. You people do not cover us accurately at all. So they have a few protesters outside, and they have thousands of people, and the first question from CNN is about protesters. So what I'm going to do is span out. Show them the crowd, press. Show them the crowd. Show them the crowd. Look, they're not turning the cameras. They don't even turn the cameras. They don't even turn the cameras because you know what? They're very dishonest people. Because you know what they do? They have the camera, live television, on my face the entire amount. My wife goes, I go home. Were there any people there tonight, darling? They don't see. They never show the crowds.
Frankly, I don't even think they give a damn about education, half of them. And I'm sure some maybe do. Want to use that word in this forum? I will. Because people want to hear the truth, Frank. I watch you all the time. They want to hear the truth. Correct. We have to be able...
to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives.